2 News, championed by your Southern California Toyota dealer.
Very relaxed, so it's probably depending on the information that they're getting and how these first responders are reacting to the situation.
Building yet? That you've noticed? You told us that a canine went in not long ago.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the dog come out. Have you, Stu? Okay, Stu's back on the radio.
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? I'm sorry. We're having a lot of IFB issues today, but you can see some of these first responder paramedics making their way over to that body that is laying out towards the front. Now, originally, this is what I'm saying. Originally, we were told that that was a suspect, and now there's a question that that may actually be a bouncer that was employed at this bar and grill. So all we can say is that there is a person down in the front of the building. You can see paramedics right now. These are going to be sheriff's paramedics making their way over there to secure the scene, see if there is any aid that they can render to that person. And now we can't even say suspect because we don't know if it's a suspect or a victim. But you can see that they are rendering some sort of aid to there, checking on that person. And then, of course, we'll see if there's a transport. But just in the general body language that we saw earlier on, I would say that that person right there has passed away. So right now, it's still a situation where it's search and rescue. And, of course, we are waiting to see if we can get a confirmation if the gunman, if it's plural or singular, if that person has been neutralized, or if there is still a threat here at this bar.
Yeah, very difficult to tell from what we're looking at. It's also one thing to point out when you said sheriff's paramedics, there are, in fact, as you just reported, some sheriff's department, both LA County and Ventura County, deputies who are paramedics, and they tend to be on the tactical team, the SCB team, the SWAT team, so they can render aid to one another if necessary during a tactical during a tactical movement. They also can render aid to victims or to the suspect, and yet they are armed. They do have the ability to defend themselves.
You know, Stu, can you tell us?
Definitely.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pat.
I was going to ask you if you could see the back of the building, and if there has been any.
It's very, very dark back there.
All right.
We saw earlier on when we first arrived, we could make out that there were vehicles in the back of the building. But extremely dark back in that area, and it continues to stay that type of dark. More first responders making their way into the building right now, and also paramedics. So to me, that hopefully, I'm still hopeful that this is that the numbers are not going to be so devastating. But you can see that their reaction, they're not carrying any kind of gurneys. No. We don't see anything to do any kind of transport. So, but again, we're seeing some of the paramedics making their way in. So there must be areas inside there that have been secured, and that the law enforcement feels that it's safe enough for the paramedics and fire department to make their way in. Again, though, this is a shooting. It came out originally as a mass shooting at a bar and grill out here in Thousand Oaks, and right now, very fluid situation, but I'm sticking with some of the original information that we got, that person in the front of the building probably going to be the suspect, just because of the fact that the SWAT paramedics were making their way over to that person, right. Not the civilian paramedics. So my guess is that was a suspect, and that suspect beyond any type of aid. And right now, what's going on inside that building is really anybody's guess, but we definitely are hopeful that the information is going to be good and not bad.
No, that was a good observation, that it was the SWAT paramedic that was actually looking at that person that could give us a sign of who that could possibly be, or what they could be, the victim or the shooter. The reason I was asking about the back of the building was to see if possibly they have tried to enter through the back, but it seems like all the activity is going on in the front of this building. And why is there a particular reason that they would just concentrate on the front of this building? I mean, there's got to be a back door. I would think there's more than one entrance and exit.
Well, it's the cleared entrance and the cleared exit. So you secure one exit, and that's what you want to use, rather than try to secure and clear all the other exits.
But however, well, you see the officers on the side of the building there. I mean, if there's a way to get in and secure the back, that would also, I mean, you want to get in the building.
Oh, yeah.
Once you know,
and they are
you want to see how many people, how responsible. So that's why I asked you that question, Stu, because it would seem to me that you would.
Yeah, definitely. They're going to keep an eye on every door, and that might have been one of the reasons why they didn't just rush into that front door. And what Jeff was saying makes perfect sense. As also is that they're
number 20.
The king of clay claims his throne. Standing O for Novak Djokovic. That's about as good as.
like there's a roll-up door right there as well. So they do have deputies at this location now, and they were here earlier on just covering that door. Now that door is definitely open. You saw a deputy walking in with a very casual stance. So I would be guessing that what's going on inside that building right now, not an active shooter anymore. Hopefully they are able to, if there are
he's okay.
And they are looking for, like you mentioned, they were saying that earlier on, reports of people hiding in the attic.
Well, Stu,
seems to be.
Let me just interrupt for a minute, because I just finished looking at a video inside the Borderline Bar and Grill, and one of the problems here is that it is almost as dark inside that building when business is happening as it is outside. It's all mood lighting. There is an open attic, so people could hop on the bar and pull themselves up and climb into the rafters. It's more of a rafter situation for the, that's part of the, if you will, the architecture of the inside of the building than it is an actual attic. Then you can go into the attic from there. But so even when officers get in, they have the difficulty of trying to provide enough light so they can see. All right, now
we have, didn't want to interrupt you there,
no,
Jeff,
go ahead.
but we do have some sound from a witness, and that's, we'd like to have our viewers take a listen, and we'd like to hear and see that as well. So as soon as we can get that ready for you, we're going to roll on that.
Okay, let's go.
What's going on in there?
Everyone was hanging out. All of a sudden we heard a bunch of shots, obviously from a semi-automatic rifle. The police showed up, 3 of them went to the door. Currently there's 1 officer down as they were breaching the front entrance. The other 2 pulled out. 1 I think is still in there, and now that I think about it, there's probably 2 officers down because only 1 came out. So they both pulled out. He's still holed up inside.
What's the guy look like?
I don't know, I haven't seen him.
Well, that's
I'm student body president. He's also our student government, so it's just kind of
who breached the front entrance.
And that 1 came out and the other did not.
Did not.
Of course, we don't know for sure. That is a witness, a civilian giving that particular account.
And also, that was earlier. That we got that interview segment from what is probably now a good almost hour ago. So that's what it was like then. That doesn't necessarily confirm what it's like now.
No, but you do get an idea.
Oh,
and the reason we wanted to play that is you do get an idea from someone who was there what it was like when this first happened.
Yeah.
Very, very frightening, I'm sure. Stu, can you tell us what's going on now from what you can see?
We're still watching, with keeping an eye on what's going on down there. But we listened to that little clip right there, and of course it must have been chaotic, to say the least. And that in these type of situations, everybody sees a portion of what's going on. It looks like another medic making their way into the building, and it was interesting too. It's like you guys were saying earlier on, both of you, that like these folks were, a lot of these first responders are people that live in the area, law enforcement that lives in the area.
Yep.
That person that just went in was wearing a flannel and a T-shirt, but he definitely had a backpack with him. a medic's backpack, and of course they weren't going to let any civilian make their way inside that building. And again, there's another officer that's walking in that wearing basically street clothes. So what Jeff was talking about earlier on, I totally agree with that. This is probably these are probably officers that live in the area, that are first responders that made their way out here to assist in this situation, and now they're being utilized. They're inside, they're rendering aid and is probably assisting in that search and rescue.
Well, we know that officers from Simi Valley made their way there, and that is one of the largest concentration of police officers in terms of where they live in our area, from what I understand. In fact, that's a fact. There are a lot of police officers that make their homes in Simi Valley, so I wouldn't be surprised if a number of officers arrived on the scene from there. Now we see some of these responders coming out, walking,
firefighters,
casualties,
firefighters, and they are they're making their way over to that other person. We don't know if that's the suspect and or a bouncer. They're going to pretty much, I'm sure, just double check what the the SWAT paramedics or the law enforcement paramedics confirmed earlier on. So we're going to keep away from that shot right now. But it does appear that at least one person down in front of the building. We're not sure if that is the shooter or now was, and then later on it came up that it may actually be one of the bouncers out here. But definitely one person passed away outside the building. One law enforcement officer, we hear that that person was shot. Our desk is working to get confirmation on that. But right now, again, very fluid situation. We're just kind of watching, trying to pick up as much as we can visually, and then of course we're up here, we're working the radios as well, trying to get any kind of information that we can pass along to the public.
Just a couple of things in observation. One from the...
Up, another victim.
Yep, you're right. Once again, arms up until they make sure they know who that person is. Now arms down. That's a female.
Looks like a young lady.
I was about to say it seemed like they may have had the inside fairly cleared, because you have, you know, firefighters and officers or sheriff's deputies walking out, you know,
without by themselves.
Right.
That was my next question too. Is have you seen anybody else being brought out of the building? And again, the fortunate thing that we've seen so far is that people are walking out on their own.
Yes, yes.
With little to no assistance at all.
Well, and back to what the fellow spoke about, the interviewee that we had about an hour, maybe 45 minutes ago. He said it was semi-automatic gunfire. He sounded like someone who knew the distinction between fully automatic and semi-automatic gunfire. If that is the case, that merely means that you can continue to fire as fast as your finger can move. It's not the kind of fire where you can where you know, you can fire 30 rounds a second.
Continuously.
And fully automatic gunfire is something that can take out an entire bar. So that may be good news if he is correct.
And then again, we don't know. We haven't heard about any reports of any weapons being found, whether it be an Uzi or smoke grenades. Stu, I don't remember you saying that you saw any smoke. So even if this person, go ahead.
We did not. When we arrived here, the officers, the first responding officers, were still making their game plan. We were watching as a couple of them basically ran the perimeter of the building. They went around the backside as well. They were checking doors, but they were very tense in their stance, moving very, very quickly, communicating with other officers that were heavily armed with body armor and weapons in the area. But it was very much a search and secure type of situation. Right now, though, you can see the motions, how these first responders are walking around, very casual. They're allowing the fire department and paramedics walking around. But right now, the tenseness is over. What happened inside that building is still a question at least to us up here in the helicopter.
Exactly. All right, so we're about where we were in terms of just moments ago, Stu, when we talked about the first responders and law enforcement walking, their stance has changed a bit, less tense, walking into that building. We're looking at pictures now, I guess. Those look like other people that could have been inside, just citizens or people in the bar walking casually. Is that an officer walking with them?
Yeah, that's an officer walking with that person.
But we haven't seen anybody, thank goodness, so far that has had what we deemed to be multiple injuries walking out of that building. We did see some people loaded up in an ambulance.
Right, earlier, right.
But don't have an exact count. That's what we're trying to confirm.
So all of these people are going to be, even though they are, okay, I'm just pausing because I'm just seeing our reporter, and we're going to try to get you a picture of our reporter as soon as we can.
Well, our photographer is there from what I understand, but we will try to get that signal and a reporter to you as soon as possible.
Injured inside the bar and grill, including one deputy sheriff that was transported. I can't tell you the condition of either deputy or those that are injured inside, but I can tell you that this is still a very active scene, and we have obviously dozens of personnel behind me now that are trying to get to the bottom of what happened and to neutralize the threat if the threat is still active.
If the threat is still active, sir?
Yes.
Okay, so it's an active situation in your words.
It's an active situation. We can't consider this situation under control at this point. We have lots of personnel that are on scene, including special weapons and tactics team with the Ventura County Sheriff's Office, the Ventura Police Department, as well as the Simi Valley Police Department.
So the shooter could be alive and could still be a threat.
Yes.
Can you give us any sense of how many people were hit?
I would say about half a dozen people were injured inside the location.
Shot?
Yes.
Okay. And once more, the status of the shooter, sir, what can you tell us?
I can't tell you much about the shooter at this point. We're still looking for the shooter. We can't confirm that the shooter is in custody at this point.
And the number of victims we're hearing, mass casualty, means anywhere from 11 to 20 victims? Is that correct?
At this point, what I'm hearing is about 6.
Do you know how many people were inside at the time?
I would say hundreds, but I can't confirm the exact number.
Okay. As far as you know, only 6 victims total.
That's what I can confirm at this point. But again, I want to remind you this is very preliminary, and our deputies are still processing it to ensure both that the shooter is neutralized and the victims are taken care of.
You said on arrival, sir. You said on arrival. You described a very dynamic scene. What was that like?
Deputies arrived on scene. They responded to a shots fired call. When they got here, we're still hearing those shots, and they responded to neutralize that.
One of the witnesses said that they put smoke bombs in. Do you know about that? Was that still going on when deputies arrived?
I have not heard of the smoke bombs. I don't know about that.
Has anyone been confirmed killed, or has anyone died in this incident that we know of?
I can't tell you what the status of any of those that were shot is at this point.
When's the last time we had a shots fired incident in this community?
It's been quite some time. It's been quite some time.
Thousand Oaks is known for its safety. This obviously changes everything.
Thousand Oaks is a very safe community. This is something that thankfully is very unusual, and it doesn't happen very frequently in our neighborhood. We train all the time with active shooters, and if you see behind me, we have law enforcement for all agencies. We all train the same way for active shooter scenarios, so we can see to neutralize that threat. And so we're working with our partners, both state and other municipalities.
When's the last time you heard a shot fired?
That's a tough question. I can't tell you specifically when it was, especially in this neighborhood.
Again, sir, forgive me.
My name is Garo, G-A-R-O. Last name is Kurajian, K-U-R-E-D-J-I-A-N. I'm a captain with the Ventura County Sheriff's Office.
Thank you so much. Do you know how many weapons were recovered?
I don't have that information.
That was Captain Garo Karajian, and if you didn't catch all of it, he is dealing with partial information as well. And if you notice, he said it's an active scene, and I have a feeling that's because what Stu has identified as a body in the front of the Borderline Bar and Grill, they haven't identified very likely that body and whether that person is the shooter.
And he would not confirm that there was an actual body.
No.
He did not confirm of any fatalities. He did talk about a half a dozen people that were shot. He did confirm that, but he did not confirm that the shooter was in custody or that anyone, that there was loss of life at that same period. If you recall, remember he said when they first responded, they heard shots fired when they arrived, but he's not heard a shot in the last half hour or so.
But I can guarantee you, I've done not only a lot of stories on tactical movement, but I've trained with the LA County Sheriff's Department, SEB team. You would not see officers walking in front of a scene like that if that scene was not secured.
Well, yeah, I think we can definitely surmise from that.
I mean, so it's
for most of us that have been here in this market or been covering these kinds of, not that you have as many active shooter situations, but there have been plenty. But I guess Captain Garl was just trying, or Couragean was just trying to be as cautious as possible. He said active situation still, but he cannot confirm if the shooter has been neutralized.
He did say, correct me if I'm wrong, Pat, one deputy shot and transported.
Yes.
And transported. So, but was there a second deputy injured in some fashion that we didn't?
He did not talk about a second deputy. He talked about one that he knew of.
That had been shot and wounded and transported.
But did not know the extent of the injuries. And again, he certainly did not confirm that there was a body. Okay, well, our Tom Wade is on the scene. In fact, we heard him questioning Captain Couragean there. There he is. We have you live now, Tom. What can you tell us?
Hi there,
we
Pat.
just heard the press conference, so to speak.
Right. So I'm with the gentleman here. You said you spoke with someone who just came out of the bar.
Yeah, he had no shirt on. I just pulled up because I seen all the lights going on. And he told me the story of what apparently happened there. I know he's there. He had the X on his hand. He had no shirt. He told me apparently a shooter came in, started shooting off shots. They did whatever they could to get out, broke some windows, got out, got all their friends out. He said his friend Tim was hit through the shoulder. After that, he said it took up to like 10 to 15 minutes before he saw cops and ambulance start getting there.
This was country college night.
Yeah, college night at Borderline.
Have you been in this bar before?
I was there 1 week ago, exactly.
So what is it? What's the space like? I mean, is it a big open space?
It's got an open dance floor that in there, and a few pool tables when you walk into the left. It's not that confined, but I mean it can be hard to get through. It does get a little narrow on the edges of it.
Did the man that you spoke with, did he give any sense of how many shots were fired?
Yeah, he told me the first gun that he had, he said there may have been multiple guns, that it had a large magazine, that he heard like 20 shots fired, and then he heard more after they got out.
What did he see when he was leaving? Were there people able to get out? I mean, were people down?
I can't comment on that. I know that he said his friend was hit and that they were just hiding, trying to find cover and shelter.
Any idea if the suspect said it, or the shooter said something before he started to shoot?
No, I don't know anything about that.
Thank you so much. What's your name?
My name's Jordan.
Jordan, what's your last name?
Carr.
Carr. C-A-R-R?
K-A-R-R.
K-R. I'm so sorry. I know you weren't there, but it's terrible. This is just absolutely a difficult situation here. We're trying to kind of assess what's going on. Right in the distance back there, we believe, is where the bar is. It's kind of hard to see where we are. So much police presence on scene, as you can imagine. And as we were listening to the scanners and the radios coming up here, they were really trying to get a sense of a place to stop, a place to go, where they could treat patients. That was the big problem that they were dealing with, where to go, where it was safe, because they don't know, as we heard from the Ventura County Sheriff's deputy there, whether or not it was a safe area to stop, whether it was a place where they could sit down and triage people. So that is one of the big issues that they were facing, is trying to figure out where they could go if there are mass casualties here, where they could bring people out, where there wouldn't be further injuries. I think the biggest concern here is obviously whether or not the shooter is still active, still trying to flee the scene. We don't know. I mean, the best sense we can have is what the Ventura County Sheriff's deputy told us here on scene, which is that they are treating this right now as if they don't know if he's down. So that's where we are right now. I am trying from my position here to see if I can find any more people who were inside. Did you talk to anybody who was in the bar?
I've talked to a number of people that were in the bar. They were all...
Well, first of all, this is Ken Kohler, folks, one of our photographers here.
Yeah, that's
Ken,
fine,
when you talked to folks coming out, what did they tell you?
They initially heard a pop. One person described it as, one of those poppers you have at New Year's Eve, and then just sheer pandemonium. One person I talked to said that he felt bad that he trampled people to get out, but that was the only way for him to get out was just to run over people. A number of people up there, unfortunately, they're all dressed for being out at the club. They're freezing, they're cold. A lot of people were hurt when they were running out. I talked to one gal who has a pretty bad laceration on her knee, and that came from her running out, and she tripped on the way out. From what I'm seeing up there, it doesn't seem to be much of an active scene. One thing I just noticed is that the fire department was picking up their mass casualty tarps, so I don't think they're expecting any more victims. I have not seen any ambulances leave. I was literally right in front of the borderline for a good 10 minutes, and then they just pushed everybody back and up a little bit beyond where all those police cars were. That's where they're starting to interview the witnesses and ask what they saw. I did see a number of agencies from all over Ventura County, and the FBI is already here. So, and if you take a look right behind LA County Fires here, that's how far these units are coming from.
How close did you get? Were you able to get
right in front of the restaurant? I grew up here, and this is something that when they told me that it was at the borderline, I didn't need an address. I grew up here. I've been here.
But you're a paramedic,
right? So, and that's the one thing I did notice. There were a number of people who were inside that now are wearing purple gloves. And one of the people that I talked to was a Marine, and he jumped right into action. He started treating people, grabbed some gloves from the first responders, and he was helping to treat a number of people. And he's got, a couple of them have blood all over them, but they were, right place, right time in a certain sense.
Well, I'm glad that at least it sounds like maybe there's progress in terms of getting some of these patients treated and getting people out of there. Obviously, we don't know what's in that space right now, and that's the big concern. We don't know how many people are potentially down inside. The gentleman we spoke to just a short time ago was saying that he spoke to a man who saw somebody, coming out and described a really, scary, horrific scene and just trying to escape. I think he said that someone had to jump out of a window, or that's what they had to do to get out.
I talked to a woman who didn't want to go on camera, but she did jump through the window to get out. Where I was up at this gas station, a number of reunions happening as people are starting to sort of filter into one place. If you go up Rolling Oaks here, it goes up a little bit of a hill, and there's just people strewn everywhere. We're just hoping to find their friends, their loved ones. One person I did talk to was here. He's 18 years old. It's the first time he's ever been here.
Yeah,
he's
college
here.
Country night tonight.
Right, and it's his. It was a birthday party. It's the first time he's ever been here, and he's shaking, realizing that things that you see on the news that happen other places have happened here.
All right. Ken, thank you so much. Why don't you continue to gather it while we also try to get as much more as we can from this location. Ken did speak with some witnesses. We're going to try and turn that sound for you as quickly as I can. Why don't I send it back to you guys for a little bit while we try to get some more information here at the scene.
Okay, Tom, thank you for that. We know that Stu has to go refuel. Stu, are you still on the air with us right now?
FBI actually making their way into the... we've got probably making their way into the building right there. And then, of course, you've also got the law enforcement with their different mentioned is that we saw the FBI actually making their way into the building right there. And then, of course, you've also got the law enforcement with their different postures. We haven't seen anybody come out. We've been listening to these reports. We've been trying to get information on the scanner. There was some talk earlier on about, they were talking about their triage center, but then we're hearing that they are picking that up, and we also have not seen any activity here indicating that they were bringing in any medical equipment for anybody inside there. So this is good and bad information. It's very when you listen to that one officer talk about possibly 6 people inside there that had been shot, and we've seen no transports, that's devastating. but then we also hear that there was really mass chaos going on here. We hear a lot of these people talking about breaking windows and injuries from being trampled. So when those shots were being fired, most of the people that were able to get out got themselves out as quickly as they could. Again, all the information we're getting, we're trying to sort it out, trying to get solid information, or trying to get those numbers that, of course, everybody wants to hear right now. It does appear that they use the word neutralized, that the shooter has been neutralized. We don't know if that is the person in the front of the building or perhaps inside. We just don't have that information yet. But you can see the search for victims that may still be hiding, and or possibly another shooter. That person right there, actually, that law enforcement has his weapon drawn with a flashlight. So the search continues out here and is very, very active inside some of these areas on the rooftop. We heard somebody saying that there's open rafters and that you can climb up into those rafters. So it is what was going on in there must have been chaotic, to say the least. And of course, everybody that got out, adrenaline, or a little bit of fear going on. And of course, self-preservation. There was that one person talking about how he wanted to get out and he felt bad later on. Self-preservation. There's nothing that is human nature. Right now, though, the search continues. We haven't got any information on any fatalities except for the one that we see in the front, but even that really hasn't been confirmed. But we can pretty much say one person has passed away in front of the building. Is that the shooter? Is that a victim? Right now, that information still eludes us. Obviously, the first responders right now, they've got quite a scene to deal with. They have no idea what is going on inside that building, but we do know FBI is here. We do know a number of law enforcement still making their way out, and first responders, meaning the fire department paramedics, still walking around with these deputies and law enforcement, just in case there's somebody that might need help. Also, something that we can say for a fact is that it is shifting. The search and rescue portion is still going on, but they actually have a crime scene tape put up now, and not even allowing the law enforcement to walk in front of the building.
Okay, I did notice that moments ago, Stu. And we know that Tom Wade has talked with more people. We want to toss to him now. And then, you know what, before we do that, Tom, just want to add, when you talk about the uncertainty of this and how people at home could be watching this right now or hearing about this, the Pepperdine newspaper has reported that they know about several students that attended this college night and that were at the borderline. So that's got to have people's nerves.
Exactly.
Right, door 41.
Absolutely. And Tyler, I'm with Tyler right now. Say your last name from your Overkirk. And you work at the borderline. Tell me about what you know at this point. I know it's pretty sketchy.
I'm trying to get a hold of my friends. I have a ton of friends that are in there, and I can't get a hold of anybody. I'm worried. I've heard that one security guard is down. I work security. And that's the thing that's worrying me the most at the moment.
Describe what tonight is like. It's a big college night, right?
Yeah, it's terrible. It's a country night. It's a college night. A lot of young people.
How many people do you think could be in there at one time?
Typically, it's about 600.
We cleared the crawl space underneath.
When you have that many people in that space, how does one, if there is a situation, how do you get out? It's like any other bar, probably gets very crowded.
It gets very crowded. There's multiple exits. Chaos as soon as everything broke out.
When you've spoken to people, I don't know if you talked to anyone just kind of in this area. Spoken to anyone who's talked to anyone who's
response with 4.22, 255 Blueberry Lane, cross the Flory, possibly related to the incident at borderline. RPM location advised, heard gunshots.
Maybe seeming. When was the last time you were there inside the bar?
2 days ago. From El Rio.
And do you know the people who are working tonight?
Yeah, I know all of them.
All the bartenders.
Correct.
Okay, at this point, I suppose at this point you're just trying to find out anything you
can.
Trying
to get any information.
Tyler, thank you so much.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
So there we have, a number of people who either work there, who have lots of friends there. This is a community that, as we were talking to Ken Kohler, one of our photographers, just a second ago, there's a lot of people that live in this area, that grew up in this area. travel to this area. Pat, like you said, came here from Pepperdine, students who traveled here for this night. He said 600 people, I think, is the capacity. So you have a massive amount of people who could potentially be inside of this bar at one time. And we don't know, it's back there in the distance, and we don't know, who may still be inside there. Sir, do you know people who were in there?
We have the Washington Matter.
You know a lot of people. Can you tell me who you know? Are your friends or family members?
Yeah, four.
Your friends? Yeah. And they were just there for college night?
Yeah.
Have you heard anything from anyone?
No, not yet.
Not a text message? How many people did you know in there?
Oh, try that too.
Three. Okay.
Five out of
and obviously,
Five out of two. We have,
there's that going on. So we don't want to make it worse. We don't know
several people here that were inside.
No, how much lost time we have? We have 40 minutes here on station. We have 40 minutes before we have to leave.
10-4. Are you with the PIO?
Like a lot of other people.
No, yeah, it was. I think there was a big misunderstanding. There was 50 earlier on. 5-0, not 5
your
minutes.
loved ones are okay. All right, thank you. I'm sorry for what you're going through. We're just trying to check with whoever we can. There's sparse details about this right now.
Let's 7 Ocean,
as people are kind of waiting here, there's people, on the side of this. We're on an overpass, an underpass, essentially. And Moore Park is right here, and we're just kind of in the staging area where a lot of people have come and just kind of standing around waiting for any information that can come out. And
I don't know. I don't know if we're staying.
Incident like this that has attracted so much law enforcement, so many paramedics, so many fire departments in so many different areas, you just don't know. As we kind of look down here, Angela, let's just pan over here real quick. You can just kind of see how many law enforcement agencies are responding here on the scene from across the area, across the county. We are working to turn some of that interview sound from the sound from the people who were leaving the club, and we're trying to get some of that for you to give you more of a picture of what was going on inside of this bar. But certainly with a space that large and potentially hundreds of people in the space, it could be a very serious situation if someone went there and went there with terrible intentions. Pat and Jeff, I'm going to go ahead and send it back to you guys in the studio.
We'll give you the time to try to turn that interview around.
I haven't seen a whole lot of difference. Obviously, the question now is how did that shooter get here? I'm sure that the officers are going to start searching all the vehicles. We've actually watched them make a cursory search of the area, basically walking around, looking at flashlights, looking in the vehicles that are still parked out here, just to make sure that there's nobody maybe hiding in one. We actually watched them make a cursory search of the area, basically walking around, looking at flashlights, looking in the vehicles that are still parked out here, just to make sure that there's nobody hiding in one of the vehicles or anything suspicious. So that's going to be happening. Of course, we saw the FBI make their way into that building. We haven't seen them come out as of yet. That rooftop still being searched and or secured by law enforcement. What we're seeing right there is actually a flashlight from a officer on the rooftop. There you go. You saw him backlit there just for a second. So they are still making sure that everybody is out and that the building is 100% secure. That's probably going to be going on for some time. The investigation obviously has already started inside. Pat was asking about what it looks like in the back of the building. Every now and then we can see a flashlight going on or off back there, but that back area is got trees and no lighting, external lighting that we can see. So the only thing we can see every now and then is a flashlight, but they are searching everywhere to make sure that there are no victims possibly hiding or any other threat to the officers that may be here. But right now this building really being locked down.
Your camera copy the campus just west of the location at 777 Rolling Oaks Plaza.
Maybe even days. But we know the FBI is here. I am still very
is hopefully gathering information from the officers under his command and can tell us more about what unfolded in here and what sort of
that's plus and minus. There may be casualties inside.
This situation tonight from eyewitnesses who saw it happen, and we
haven't heard any kind of confirmation as of yet.
I'm here a lot, I dance a lot, and I was just dancing, having a good night, normal Wednesday. And my boat was at Roots.
Now unknown. Earlier on we were hearing good condition, and then later we heard not so good. So again, all that information coming through us so quickly, we try to get things confirmed, but right now up here we can tell you a large, insane police presence. I haven't seen a number of officers and law enforcement make a response like this in any sort of time. And also ambulances that now have actually been released. So the fact that injured folks that are here, that part is over. And all the folks that were inside the building, they've all been sorted out. They are with law enforcement and or paramedics. And again, must have been a hectic scene, like we've been hearing. It was full of people, and then shots being fired, and then all these young folks trying to get out of this building.
That's right. Well, Stu, you know what? We have been, we've had to depend on what we have heard from eyewitnesses at the scene, and we want to roll some of that tape now from someone that we talked to moments after this shooting happened.
A gunman walked in, had like a submachine gun or a small caliber, and it had a big magazine. He starts popping off, and then everyone ducks down, and then we start grabbing chairs and throwing them out the window. He had smoke grenades. And then I don't think he had a flashbang, there were smoke grenades, and he threw them, and smoke's coming out. And then everyone starts jumping through the windows. My friend, he got hit right here. He didn't get hit in the heart, but it went through his shoulder. And then we just start running. There's only like 2 cops on scene after like 10 minutes.
Well, 535, is there any additional personnel to assist with the northern traffic scene clearing? And there's only going to be one of us left.
He pops off a whole nother 30 rounds. I don't know, 30 rounds, pops them off. And then 10 minutes after that, cops come. And they drag everyone out.
Come on, I'm at the top of Rolling Oaks and Hayland. All parties have left the area. I can advise where you need me now.
Black hair, black trench coat. He was short, stubby. I didn't see what race he was. It was white or Hispanic. That's it. That's white or Hispanic. That's all I know. That's what I saw.
Move to assist 5 George 5 with the traffic.
Well, that's the first we've heard in terms of the description. That's the first we've heard that this person was wearing a black trench coat. Well, we can
101, press the gathering here. We're keeping traffic open for emergency vehicles.
That's the first thing I was going to say. It reminded me of a Columbine type shooting, as we know that those suspects actually wore those types of trench coats. We've heard a number of witnesses talk about semi-automatic weapons, a large magazine. I was interesting to me, Jeff, to hear this young man say that he ran outside and heard the shots fired first, then ran outside, and then heard more, about 30 more rounds.
After the 2 officers arrived.
Correct, yes.
Right, exactly. So those were 2 cops, as he said, cops, 2 officers or deputies who were at the scene within the first 10 minutes. Those were the only 2 he saw. There could have been others, but that also backs up what the sheriff's captain said, which is when the first responders arrived, the first deputies arrived, the shots were still being fired.
Yes.
So that goes along with that. We're being told at this point that our Candace Crone is at one of the hospitals, and do we have her on the line?
Well, there are 2. Paso Robles, is that where you are, Candace? Are you with us?
Or Northridge.
Oh, there she is.
Yes, that's where we are. As we mentioned, 6 victims. One of them, including a deputy, we're told was brought here to Los Robles Hospital and Medical Center. And now we just arrived here literally just a couple minutes ago, so we have not seen any ambulances rush into the hospital. We have seen about a handful of cars, some drivers just kind of fly in. So at this point, we're not sure if those people are related to any of the victims. We're still trying to confirm exactly how many people were transported to the hospital. We did try to get closer to the emergency room entrance. However, a security guard did ask us to leave the property. It is private property, so unfortunately, we aren't able to get any closer than where we are now. And as you can see, there aren't any people here where we are, as this is the entrance to the medical center. But again, since we've been here, we haven't seen any ambulances arrive to the hospital, just a few cars a little bit of traffic here. Otherwise, it's pretty calm. But we're going to work to find out exactly how many people, if in fact were transported to this hospital, and what the scene is. I did also see a couple of appeared to be sheriff deputies in their uniform, just kind of casually walking about. But other than that, we haven't really had a really sense of urgency here at the hospital just yet.
Well, that's good, because Los Robles is an acute care facility. It's not a major trauma center.
No.
So they would have to call doctors and nurses in if they received that kind of delivery of 6 patients all at once, you would think.
Well, yes, and if not, they would have gone to the Thousand Oaks Surgical Hospital, possibly, if they needed some kind of that severe treatment. I wanted to ask Candace, you know, we heard that an officer was shot and transported, but we haven't heard anything else about that. Do you have any confirmation that even an officer was taken there or not?
That is the report that we have received, is that an officer was taken here. But again, I haven't seen a heavy law enforcement presence here, which we usually see when an officer is involved in any sort of shooting. So, right, we haven't seen that just yet, other than the 2 deputies, I believe were deputies that were just kind of casually walking about here. But other than that, we're still trying to find out exactly if that officer was in fact brought here, what their condition is. But at this point, it's just not a real sense of urgency here at the hospital, as we have seen in other similar incidents.
All right, well, maybe that's
telling.
a good sign, Candace, that all points to, I would say, good news in this situation. We certainly hope so. All right, thank you for that report, Candace, and we know that you're going to be standing by for some time until this situation. We have more information. Stu Mundell is back on the air with us. And Stu, is this still the front of the building? Can't tell. I don't see that crime tape.
This is going to be Rolling Oaks. This is going to be the actual street side. We were just kind of looking around and seeing how the landscape is. It would be when we first arrived here, there was just first responders everywhere. Now we see command posts arriving and parking in the parking lot out here. They're starting to set up for a long investigation at this crime scene. Again, we're still working the scanners. Nobody's actually really talking about any exact numbers. So we have to wait and see, but we do know the FBI has walked in and hasn't walked out as of yet. But right now, it's still a very active crime scene. It's probably going to be for some time. Some of those paramedics, the fire department paramedics, they have been hanging out with the law enforcement, walking around, probably there just in case there is a victim somewhere that may need any kind of help. But right now, the mood in this area has really shifted from tactical to more of a crime scene and an investigation.
And that's why the FBI would be there. They keep track of mass shootings. There's no real definition of a mass shooting. Most consider it 4 or more people in one area and at one time. Just when we talk, we're going to go to Tom Waite, but I do want to add to what Stu said. We have heard numbers from the Ventura County Sheriff's Captain of a half-dozen people wounded, at approximately a half-dozen.
Yes, he did confirm that information for us. Well, but we have been relying on information that we've been getting from witnesses, people that were at the scene, and Tom Waite has someone else that he's talked to.
Been there to help. Hi there, Pat. Here we go. We're going to talk to this man who had friends inside.
You have multiple friends who were in there tonight?
I don't have enough hands to count how many friends I had in there tonight. I got a Snapchat message from one of my friends saying, I don't know if this is a joke, but there was a shooting in Borderline. And I immediately called one of my friends to make sure that it wasn't, and she said it was. So me and my girlfriend came from Studio City and immediately drove out here to make sure that everyone was okay. As you can see, we can't even get any closer, so I messaged everyone that I knew that could be in there. A few of them got back to me saying that they were hidden in specific spots around the place, and they're all okay. I'm getting messages right now that people are okay.
I know, it's been a bad night. Have you asked them at all? I know you just mentioned a few minutes ago, but have you asked them at all what they heard or what they saw or what they know at this point?
Not really, no. I haven't dared to ask them anything right now.
Can you describe this bar for us? You say you're a regular here. We know that on any given day it's very popular.
Wednesdays is the most popular night because it's college night.
But this is a regular event.
Yeah, just a bunch of lively kids. Mainly different colleges from Ventura all the way down to the Valley. Santa Clarita, I think, has a few that come out.
When they were texting you, I'm just curious, what were they saying to you? I'm okay, or I was in the bathroom. What were they describing?
There were a few of them that said that they were in the bathroom. A few of them said that they were at the gas station. A few said they were underneath the building. But I got messages from all of them saying that they're okay now. They're safe. They're staying put until they can come out.
Did they see a shooter or anything like that?
According to one of them, it was someone was in a black trench coat, came in, shot the front door guy. One of my friends is saying that they got a feed from I don't know where, but they were saying that the front door girl was shot, like 4 others were shot. He came in through smoke grenades and fired off 20 shots. That's really
From
as much
someone
as I
who was
know.
in there.
As far as I know.
Is there anybody that you're still waiting to hear from that you have not?
There are a handful of people that I have not been able to get in contact with.
Boy,
that
Lincoln,
I'm
1087.
really worried about because a few of them were at Route 91.
When did you hear that anything had happened? What were you told, and what went through your head during that moment?
I heard about this probably about 2 hours ago, or basically immediately after it started. After that, we just came straight here to make sure that everyone's okay, and then I just started messaging on my phone. That's it. Like, my phone's blowing up right now.
So you're saying that some of your friends were at Route 91 and were here tonight, and you have not heard from them yet?
Correct.
What does that do to you emotionally, knowing that you're still waiting to hear from them?
It's scaring me. It's really scaring me because a few of them I consider brothers and sisters, and to have anything to happen to them would be devastating to me. Carl.
Command post.
Carl
You're
Edgar is
just
my
to the west of the
first and
location
last
at 777 Rolling Oak Plaza.
CarledGar.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry. Yeah. You know, as you hear from these folks, it is insanely heartbreaking to hear that he has friends that are inside this venue that were at the Route 91 event in Las Vegas. How do you even put that into words?
Sure.
To think that someone has to go through this twice, I don't even know. But yeah, I go ahead. Go
Tom,
ahead,
I have
Jeff.
a quick question for you. Have you heard, by listening to just maybe the officers talking or giving out information, has Thousand Oaks given out a phone number or any way they want people to contact them? What?
You know what? I'm going to walk you guys over. There is a press conference going on right now, and I'm going to try and get us in there. So here we go. A little bit of a walk through here as we, live television, folks. Here we go. Try to get in here, guys. Excuse me. We're just going to come over here. Here we go. I'm going to put this down here.
He could have gone to one of many hospitals. I don't know. I don't know which hospitals people were transported to. At about 11:20. 11:20. Okay.
What's changed since we last spoke?
What I can tell you is the number of people that were injured went up from 6 to 11. So I can't tell you what the status of those that were shot is, what their level of injury is, but that number went up from 6 to 11.
And how about the status of the shooter?
What I can tell you is the shooter is confined to within the facility, so there is no threat to the general public outside the bar and grill. I don't know what the status of the shooter is, if he's been captured or if he's been neutralized. But what I can tell you is we don't feel that he's out of the bar and grill at this time.
9 William, 10-4.
I know only of the guns. I've heard of smoke bombs by being at the presser earlier. A reporter mentioned that, but I don't know that.
So 11 shot. Do you know the status of them?
I don't have the status of any of their injuries.
Including the deputy. You don't know how they're doing.
I don't have the status of the deputy either.
Is the location cleared now? Is the location cleared? We heard there might be people hiding in the attic.
We have deputies going through it now. My understanding is that there is. I didn't know about people hiding in the attic. I haven't heard that at all.
Sir, can you spell your name again, please, and your rank?
It's Kured Jian. My first name is Garo, Garo. I'm a captain in the Sheriff's Office.
Garo, was one of your colleagues injured or killed tonight? We understood a deputy deputy or someone in law enforcement may have been badly hurt.
A deputy was shot. I don't know what his condition is.
Which agency?
With the Ventura County Sheriff's Office.
Were they responding to the scene, or?
Yes, they were responding to the scene.
Was it someone that engaged the suspect?
I don't know that, but I assume so, but I don't know that.
We heard reports about security guard that got injured. Security guard in the scene?
I don't have information on any of those injured other than the deputy that was injured. That's all that I have.
You don't have any conditions on any of the victims, is that right?
I don't have any conditions on any of the
11
victims.
total right now that we know of.
Yes.
Are you expecting that number to grow?
I would guess, if anything, that number would go up. These are, again, like I said earlier, they're preliminary numbers. I wanted to give you guys numbers as opposed to saying several, and that number could change. Just like when I said earlier, 6. As far as you know, that number's gone up to 11. That number could change.
So as far as you know, 11 people are in the hospital?
I don't know if they were transported or if they're here or what their condition is. I don't know.
3 by 22, 3 by 21. Go for both units.
In and out at this point, we have investigators that are looking to make sure that the scene inside the nightclub is safe, and it's going to take some time. I don't have a time estimate
Nelson Perez
for that.
making incoherent statements about being followed and harassed with deputies to do at control. Deputy sprayed. RP
I
also
don't
advised that
know
it's the
where the
location.
call came from, but what I can tell you is the call was shots fired,
that they're in the
and that's
trailer
what our
at the bottom
deputies
of the hill.
responded to. That's what they, in fact, heard when they arrived on scene.
At 4183 Center Street.
Both units copy.
I don't have that level of detail.
Numerous fires to that location, including domestic.
It's so rapidly unfolding at this point, we're trying to get as much information to give you all about the statistics of what has happened. I don't have that level of detail. I haven't been able to talk to investigators to that level yet.
You said that the shooter is, what, quarantined somewhere, cordoned off?
We don't feel that the shooter has left the bar and grill. So whatever it is was contained inside the bar and grill. We don't feel that there is a threat to the public outside. To the
So if personnel is inside the building and the shooter is inside the building, doesn't that mean that the shooter is down at this point?
I don't know if he's been transported or if he's been captured. What I can tell you is we don't feel that there's a threat to the residents outside the area.
Do you know if the borderline bar, do they scan for weapons on occasion?
I don't know that.
Yes.
Hello?
Okay, I think that looks like it's going to wrap up this briefing. We're starting to repeat some of the questions, but what we know that casualty number has been up to 11 people total. We don't know how many of those 11 survived the shooting. We do know.
Here in the area, it sounds like Ventura County's sheriff's deputies feel that they have this suspect contained, so to speak, inside that building. One more time, let's just kind of give you a sense of how big this is. And look at here, you can see the deputy talking to people here. Folks, are you guys looking for loved ones?
Yes.
Did you have a family member who was in there?
My daughter sometimes.
Your daughter. Have you talked to her?
Yeah, we talked to her. Supposedly she's being interviewed right now, but she said she's injured, so.
She's injured?
In some way. I don't know how.
Do you know did she tell you anything about what happened?
Nothing yet. No.
Did you receive a text or something?
I talked to her physically on the phone.
How did she sound?
Scared. Very scared.
I mean, I can only imagine if she was.
At the captain of the Ventura County Fire Department, Brian, do we have a triage area set up for people that are not seriously wounded to go and see you all at some point?
Yes, right now we do have equipment staged behind me. We have equipment from LA City and LA County that arrived on scene to support this evolution. We activated RTF, which is active shooter trained firefighters to go inside and work with law enforcement. And we do have ambulances staged closer to the scene and working on patients directly at the scene.
Brian, what can you tell me about the initial response of firefighters here?
Initial response, we upgraded right away with the message we had coming in on scene. Immediately upgraded more equipment to get here and asked for our surrounding agencies for support. And they reached out immediately and sent equipment.
What surrounding agencies do you have here besides LA County Fire right now?
LA City Fire.
LA County, LA City Fire here. And how are they assisting you? What now is the process for you?
Well, right now we have so many engines and firefighters on scene that they're preparing to backfill our stations and make sure that we're still providing the best possible service to the rest of the citizens of Ventura County.
Brian McGrath, thank you so much. We know you have something to do. We'll let you guys continue. Haley, welcome.
Can you go over again? So there were at this point 11 victims.
That's the number that the sheriffs are giving right now. Yes.
But the number of fatalities not clear.
We're not completely sure of that hard number yet. No.
And talk about how fluid this situation really is.
Well, when we first arrived on scene, we were even where we're at, where we originally staged, we had to back out because we were too close. So we moved out to this location.
When you arrived, were you still hearing gunfire?
When I arrived, I did not hear any gunfire, no. But the engines on scene did.
And you have been trained for that?
Yes, to a degree.
And the victims, the shooter himself is still in there, or he has been transported?
I cannot confirm or deny where the shooter is right now. I do know that the scene is secure. The sheriffs have assured us that the scene is secure.
And then the people the engines that are waiting here, they are just waiting for additional victims, or describe what they're here to do?
They're here for support for where we need them to go. So some are coming back from being over there and working. Some are getting ready to head back to the stations to cover areas. We're also setting up critical incident stress management for the personnel that were on scene that witnessed it.
Okay. And if you could say and spell your first and last name, please.
Brian McGrath, BRIAN MCGRATH, Captain, Ventura County Fire.
We are all Cal State Channel Island students.
Was one of your classmates or friends, the young lady I overheard a moment ago, may have come face to face with them?
I'm not sure. I know. I don't think so. I mean, I know people saw. Two of my friends saw him, but I don't know if they, were that close or anything.
Did they tell you anything about this fellow? I know it's crazy tonight. I blame you for not paying attention.
Not really. I mean, I've gotten updates from my parents, but we're not trying to speculate. We just want to get all the information accurate, correct, and get through this.
And you've come to Borderline many times, sounds like.
Yes, I love this place. It's a very, it's our usual hangout. Like, my parents trust me going here that nothing like this would happen, and not to say that things like that can't, but in this community it's very hard for me to comprehend it because I've lived here all my life, and to think that I've never experienced it. I've just never experienced it.
Do you mind taking me through where you were and how you found out about this?
So I was kind of near the door. There's some tables in Borderline, like when you first walk in. So I was near there, and I've heard, I mean, I didn't see the shooter, but I heard people say that he came through the front, but obviously I ran out the front, so I don't know how that happened.
Did you hear the gunshots?
Oh yeah, they were very, very loud gunshots. They were very clear what they were. It was definitely not the music. There were people in the middle dancing and just hanging out and having a good time, and you hear that and you just know something's wrong. I really can't say. I don't want to put out any speculations. That's law enforcement's job.
No, I know, but did you hear more than 6?
I can't really say, but they're very fast, very rapid, very loud, and there were definitely a lot more than probably what a usual handgun would be.
Did you notice people said there were smoke bombs? Was there smoke in the area?
Yeah, there was some smoke. I mean, I got out of there as fast as I could, so I can't say anything as to what, other people that were in there, had experience with.
So as soon as you heard the gunshots, you just took off out the door?
No, we got down because I heard people screaming, everyone get down, and I've never experienced this before, so I'm going to listen to whatever they tell me to do. Very scary, but once, the shots kept going and going and going, we just heard people say run, and we booked it as fast as we could.
So you were in there, you heard the gunshots, someone screamed get down, you got down, and do you know about how long it felt like you were on the floor?
Not very, because because there were some smoke bombs, I guess, and there was one apparently near me, and I saw that, and we were like, it's going to go off, so we better get out of here before it does.
Did you see anyone injured as you were leaving?
I did not see anyone injured when I was leaving. With the group that I was hiding out with, there were 2 with injuries, but again, we had 2 paramedics with us. Thank God that we're in that group. So they were taken care of, and they did receive medical attention, as far as I know.
What was your name?
Erica Sigmund.
Erica? E-R-I-C-A?
K-A.
What's your last name?
Sigmund, S-I-G-M-A-N.
You're so brave to talk to us.
Thank you so much.
How are you doing right now? You seem holding up pretty well, given what you've been through.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to get through it, and I want to be here for my friends. You know, they're the ones that really kept me going through this, because there were times where I did lose it, for sure. And I mean, the group that I was hiding out with, you know, there were strangers holding my hand saying, you're going to be okay. And, you know, that's kind of what I take away from this, is that even though there's a lot of bad in this world, there's also a lot of good people there to help.
Thank you so much for speaking with us. I'm so
so
sorry for having gone through that. Thank you. We're going to step back here. It looks like we have a couple others. Okay. Do you mind if we talk to you as well? Were you inside? Can you tell us your name?
Taylor Whitler.
Taylor, where were you at the time, and what were you doing when you first heard the shot?
I was on the dance floor dancing at the time, and then all my friends were at the table right by the door, and then I heard the gunshot, I turned around and I saw him shoot a couple more times, and within a split second, everyone yelled, "Get down." So I ran to the left of the dance floor where the back door is, and everyone pretty much dogpiled on top of each other, and then it was silent for a couple seconds, and then all of a sudden, a couple guys that were closer to the bar, they got up and started running towards the back door and said, "Get up, he's coming." And so it was huge panic. Everyone tried getting up, and then was trampled a couple times. Some guy came behind me, lifted me up and said, "Let's go." And then I got a bar stool thrown at my head because they were trying to break the window to get out. And we finally made it out, ran up the hill, and then once we made it up the hill, we heard the second time.
Every Wednesday.
Did the gunfire break out a second time?
Yeah.
Saturday.
And
This young woman's hand right here, this is the mark. I assume they make that when you go in the door, right?
yeah.
And this is a very...
Can you describe what happened? Did you see the shooter?
Only for a split second. As soon as I looked back and saw him shoot the gun, I ran and tried to get cover.
What kind of gun did he have?
It was semi-automatic. It was a pistol. I'm not sure the type of gun it was, but it looked like a 40.
Someone had mentioned that there might have been smoke bombs thrown inside.
I heard there were smoke bombs, but by the time the smoke bomb went off, I was already down dogpiled on the other side, so I couldn't see it.
Did you wind up going out the back door or out the window?
I winded up going out the back door and running up the hill that's right next to there. And then as soon as we heard the second round of gunshots again, we ducked, hid behind a couple shrubs, and we 30 minutes went by and we didn't hear anything, and there was a bunch of cop cars there, so we ended up making our way down the side of the hill further away from borderline, and ended up going to one of the cop cars. There were no cops there, so we went up the street to where they had a bunch of fire trucks and stuff, and so I could see if I could find any of my friends.
Do you know about how long the gunfire went on for? I know it happened while you were inside, and then again once you had left.
While I was inside, I would say it was about a good 30 seconds. He had 2 rounds that I know with him. He changed them within about 6 seconds, which was really fast. So he knew what he was doing. And he also had perfect form. When I look back, he was like spot on. And
describe to me what it's like. I mean, you're in there having a good time, dancing, and then all of a sudden you're running for your life.
It was really, really, really shocking. It kind of, with my dad being in the military for so long, he's kind of, in a way, prepared me, but not really ever prepared me. I never thought something like this would happen. But I kind of got my head in check really quick, and I was like, I need to get shelter. I need to make it out of here. I need to do something. I didn't really have time to think about why is this happening, like what's happening. It was just like, get out.
How good of a look did you get at the shooter? Are you able to describe the look on his face, what he looked like?
He was wearing, I got a pretty good, decent look. Looked like he was wearing almost kind of like a ski mask over his face, but only the bottom half. And then he had a black baseball cap on. He was dressed in almost all black. He was a taller white man. That's really all I can remember.
Did it look like he was after anyone in particular?
Not that I know of. It was a bunch of like random shots at people.
Was he shooting directly at people, or was he just shooting at
I think the first guy he shot was the security guard.
Can you describe the moment when those shots broke out? A lot of people talk about the panic that broke out. Was there a lot of screaming or running, or everyone just dropped?
It was everyone ran and dropped. There was some screaming, but not too much. I think everyone was in so much of a shock that everyone kind of just, it was sheer panic. Everyone ran and dropped as fast as they could.
How are you doing right now?
I'm still in shock. That's definitely, yeah.
This is your dad here?
Yeah.
And so you're just hearing that your daughter was involved in all this?
No, I got a call immediately. She did what we've always trained her to do, and that's drop your cell phone, get as far away from the shooters you can, and don't make yourself a target. And she did exactly what she was supposed to do, but someone else had their phone, and we got a call at 11:20 last night, roughly 11:20. She started out just by saying, "Dad, there's been a shooting. I'm okay. I'm hiding in the hills. We're up here by the cactus."
What are you feeling, being able to be here and see your daughter?
Relief. It's my oldest kid. She just turned 19 pretty recently.
Oh, I didn't?
About 6 months ago. She's 19 years old, and I'm proud of her.
You kept your wits about you. How did you do that?
It was kind of, it's just something that you had to do. Like, there's no time to panic. You just have to, like, you have to have the mindset of, I need to get out of here. Like, what can I do to save my life, let alone, like, other people's? And it's just, like, one of those, you can't even think about it. It's just, get somewhere safe.
Well, we're so glad you're okay. Thank you for speaking with us.
Could one more time tell us.
Taylor Whitler.
How do you spell your last name?
Whittler, and then Taylor is Teylor.
Okay, and do you live near here?
All right, so it looks like a lot of these witnesses and survivors were just released. I don't know, Brett, if we can swing around here. I'm sorry. If we can swing around here, maybe. I know it's tough. Here, I'll switch sides with you.
So, I never had to practice those in high school, but I know I'm scared. I'm scared, just like.
I don't blame you.
All right, let's go to Victoria now. Victoria, are you with us? You were at the scene.
Yes, I am.
What can you tell us first of all about what you saw? And you were a Cal Lutheran student. You were the event coordinator for tonight.
I'm a promoter for Borderline Bar and Grill, and I am a Cal Lutheran student as well, yes.
All right, so what did you see?
I didn't see as much as everyone else. I was on the dance floor, and I had just walked around from the front of the bar to the back corner of the dance floor when I heard the pop, 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 and I knew exactly what it was. Grew up in a military family, and after Route 91, kind of just expected at that point. And I kind of crouched down, and I just started running toward the closest door, which I knew was in the back exit. And I tripped and fell, and I kind of started to get trampled. And then one of my friends picked me up and was, like, shooing people out the door and got me out of there. Before I didn't even hear the second round go off. I was already out of there during the first rounds. And then ran out, and I didn't know where to go because I didn't know where the shooter was. Started running into the dark, and then saw someone in their truck, so I just went, and I was like, let me in. And it ended up being a friend who worked at Borderline as well. And
hopped in and we bolted out of there, and he dropped me off at my house, and then went back to try to help more people get out of there.
Wow. So, Victoria, as the event coordinator for this event, you would have a pretty good idea of how many people were in attendance. How many people were there tonight, would you say?
So I'm not an event coordinator. I'm a promoter. So I promote the Wednesday Borderline Call night. Noel Frawley is probably better to answer that exact number. At least a couple hundred. I mean, it was not as busy as most nights, but it was definitely a usual Wednesday college night. And at the time of the shooting, it was when the time that it happened was when Borderline starts picking up anyway, which means more people were starting to come in at that point anyway.
Would there have been a line?
Starting to get more crowded.
Would there have been a line outside? Would there have been people lined up outside the door, or was it in that busy?
There's definitely a possibility, yes. At that time, yeah, it's definitely a possibility. I can't attest to that in that moment, but yeah, it's definitely possible that there were people lined up outside.
So you were on the dance floor when it happened. Was there a DJ or was there a band?
DJ. My friend was the DJ. There's a DJ booth, so she was up in the booth, and the dance floor was pretty dark. And my first reaction was to get out of there, but I didn't look behind me, and that was kind of the scariest thing, was not knowing where the shooter was. If I was running to the shooter, I didn't know where I was going, but my first instinct was to just to drop and get out of there as fast as I could.
Mm-hmm. Did you see the shooter?
I did not see the shooter. As soon as I heard the shots went off, like I said, I just tried to get out of there.
What it sounds like is there were 2 rounds of gunfire, like you might have brought 2 clips. Is that kind of what your recollection is, that there was a bunch of gunfire, then a pause, and then a bunch more gunfire? Is that what happened?
Yes, that's what I've been hearing from my friends, but from what I remember, I was so focused on getting out, I just heard the pop, 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 and I did hear a slight pause, but I think I was already out by the time the second rounds were going off. Mm-hmm.
Did you have friends that are still inside? Is everybody that you know accounted for?
Everybody but my brother and one of my other friends. But I'm there every week, so Borderline's a family. Everyone knows everyone, and from the friends that I could recall that were there, all got out. The only person that we're all kind of waiting to hear on is my brother, and he also works at Borderline.
He's an employee. What does your brother do for Borderline?
He is a promoter, and he is also a security guard on Thursdays and Saturdays. So he wasn't working security tonight. He was just working as a promoter. But he also runs the beer pong there.
Wow. So, we think about securing nightclubs, right, in the wake of like what happened at the Pulse Club in Orlando, and how to make places safer for young people. And here's a case where, action was taken. You had a security guard, and yet it's just, if someone comes in and they want to do serious harm, there's really not much that can be done, it appears.
Yeah, the reality is, it's unfortunate. There's evil people in the world that do stuff like this, and that's the crazy thing too. Is I bet I can guarantee you half the people that were there tonight were also at Route 91, and so this is round 2 for a lot of people.
That is pretty telling commentary on the way things are lately in this country. These mass shootings are so frequent and so common that you could actually experience more than one of them in your lifetime. We send our best hopes and thoughts in your direction for your brother. We hope you find him, and we hope that everything is okay with you and your family and your friends. Victoria Rose Meek, who was there and looking for a family member. If somebody out there watching or listening right now who happens to know where her brother is, please get in touch with Victoria. Thank you.
Okay, let's check in now with eyewitness news reporter Eileen Frere, who's on the scene. Eileen, what can you tell us?
Well, Mark and Michelle, we're in kind of a staging area where a lot of the fire engines and ambulances are on standby, being called out as needed. Originally, when the shooting first happened, the first fire engines, the first responders who arrived at the bar were already hearing gunshot. The responding engines, many of them were told to return to this lot for safety while they got the scene secured. They are here just waiting for orders, as this is still a situation that's early in the investigation. We were hearing that from the Ventura County Sheriff's PIO, telling us that there were, at this point, 11 victims. Among those victims, there are fatalities. They can't give us those numbers just yet on how many are among the dead. However, the PIO did say that one of those people, they believe, is the shooter who is still inside the bar. We have some sound to play for you from the PIO with the Ventura County Sheriff's Department as he describes what happened.
And among the injured in this incident was one of our sheriff's deputies. I also know that I just got briefed by our EMS coordinator. There have been people showing up at some of the local hospitals with injuries related to this incident. So there's people that left on their own and walked into ERs locally with a variety of injuries. So that number is going to go up from 11. I don't have an exact total. We're still in the early stages of this.
And not all of them were shot either, it sounds like.
That I don't know.
Your sheriff's deputy, what can you tell me? How many years?
You know, I don't have those details at this point, and you know, we're still connecting with his family, and we'll have more on that later.
How is he?
I don't have specifics on his condition at this point.
I take it that he was probably one of the first in?
Yes.
And when you arrived, how many deputies went in? And
I don't have a breakdown on exactly how that went. I just know that deputies responded to the initial call of shots fired. When they arrived on scene, they heard shots, and they entered the building to confront the suspect.
The suspect is one of the people inside the bar still?
That's my understanding, yes.
Is he deceased?
I believe so.
And do we know where in the bar he is?
I don't.
Or how far he got in?
That I don't know. My understanding there's several hundred people there at the time of the shooting, inside the bar.
Several hundred?
Yeah. The estimate that I was given was at least 200.
And this was a college night every Wednesday night. Are a lot of the victims young people in their 20s? Or?
I believe so, but I don't have a breakdown yet on that.
And at this point, you were saying that this number could go higher.
Yeah, I mean, just with that information that people are showing up at local emergency rooms with various injuries related to this, that the number keeps changing. So, you know, until that all stabilizes, it's going to be hard to provide an exact number of the number of injured and the number killed. So we'll have details on that.
Flashlights trying to find evidence, trying to find.
What can you tell me about the shooter?
I have no information on the shooter at this point.
Some people were saying, some witnesses were saying that he came in, first shot the bouncer at the front, the security guard, and then threw smoke bombs. Was there any indication of that?
I haven't heard that, but again, there's gonna be a lot more details coming out as we further the investigation.
And what is happening right now?
Right now, our homicide investigators are at the scene. You know, to give you a breakdown, so our patrol deputies responded to the initial call. They went in to deal with the threat. Backfilling behind that, there was a mutual aid call to all local agencies to assist because of the active shooter situation. We have a lot of resources here. Our SWAT team, they've cleared the building, so we're confident that there's no outstanding shooter at this point. The scene is safe, and so now our homicide investigators are in trying to piece everything together. And that's going to take a long time.
And what is your message to people that may be wondering, like thinking, oh my goodness, I have a loved one who went there tonight? What would you say?
Right now, we don't have a specific area where we've kept people. I mean, people evacuated. A lot of people left on their own. Like I said, some wounded even left and went to local hospitals on their own. So I don't have a staging area for people to come to pick people up. They can try and get a hold of them through, phone, social media, the usual kinds of things. We're not going to have any specifics on IDs of victims or anything like that for some time.
And that was the public information officer with the Ventura County Sheriff's Department, again saying 11 victims that they know of so far. Among those are fatalities, and among one of them believed to be the shooter, deceased. The sheriff also saying that he did not know how many guns the shooter may have used, but believes because that shooter is inside the bar still, that those weapons would still be inside with him. Again, the number of injured is very likely going to go up, as the public information officer was saying. Many people just left on their own and showed up at hospitals with various injuries. That is the latest from here. Reporting live from Thousand Oaks, Eileen Frere, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Eileen, thank you. And our John Gregory is on the scene as well, and he's speaking with a witness right now. Let's listen.
Okay.
Yes, but they've been alerted. I've had family calling me and friends calling me. Again, I'm just reaching out to everybody who's inside there. I have tons of people who are down there who I just really want to make sure, okay, everyone's been through a lot this year and it's not fair.
How did you get out?
A guy that I know, I don't really know him, he was able to throw me out the window. They had chairs and they threw them out the window, and they were able to take me and the girlfriend that I was with and just got us out the window and carried us right up here, and we were able to get picked up by a guy friend of ours and get back to our cars, and that's how I got to him.
Did you see any injured people?
I saw one person who was at the front who I heard might be not have made it. That's all.
And you've been also reaching out to other people.
It's college night. It was insanely crowded. It's always insanely crowded. Every time. We've been going here for years. It's always crowded.
We heard there were smoke bombs. Did you see anything like that?
Yeah, you can't see anything. You couldn't see anything. I literally could not see anything. All you can do is hear things. Honestly, you couldn't really see anything.
How long did all this go on for, the shooting and the smoke bombs?
Honestly, if I was able to get out, so I don't really know how long it was going on for, but at the time at least felt like more than 5 minutes, at least more than 5 minutes. And then I think it probably went on for at least 10.
Did you hear the suspect yelling anything, or was there anything?
I didn't hear any yelling. I heard yelling, but I can't just say that was the suspect. Everybody was yelling. Okay, I don't really want to talk anymore.
Did people know what it was right away?
I don't know. I honestly really don't want to talk anymore. I'm sorry. I'm Savannah.
And we are live at the scene here in Thousand Oaks as police continue to gather information on exactly what happened. We're talking to some of the people who were inside. A tremendously chaotic situation, obviously. A lot of people quite traumatized, not surprisingly. And some of them shared some of their stories with us, what they could share about what happened inside. So you were inside dancing?
No, I was sitting down by stools, just by myself, and the thing happened.
And a bomb went off, a smoke bomb, and then what did you hear or see?
Shots fired.
Did you see anybody hurt?
Not really, but I think some people were shot. And
what did you do? Did you?
I got my jacket and I think I fell too, and I just crawled to the corner of the bar stools and just stayed there.
Did you ever see the person who was shooting?
Not clearly, but I saw a guy with black hoodie, black shirt, black pants, had black scarf over his face.
He had a scarf over his face?
Bandana, something like that, bandana, scarf, those kind of material.
Was he tall? Can you describe his stature?
Middle height. Average.
Was he saying anything?
No.
Just shooting? So you saw him shooting?
not really saw him, but I saw him come out from the kitchen door.
What did it sound like? Pop, 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 or tit, tit?
Pop, pop, pop.
So is it really fast, bullets coming out? I mean, I imagine people are running and chaos. Can you describe that scene?
My view was the bar and kitchen door. And the guy that came out from the kitchen door was the shooter. And I briefly saw like some people coming out from the back doors as well. And that was it. That was my view of the night.
How did you get out?
Cops, they found me. I looked up to say hi, and they found me.
So you got down on the ground and stayed there? And
Stayed there till someone found me.
How long did it take?
Probably 2 hours, maybe.
2 hours?
Maybe not. An hour and a half.
What is your name, hon?
Nelly.
Could you spell it?
Nellie.
And your last name?
Wong, W-O-N-G.
And somebody told me this is your birthday?
You were here celebrating your birthday? How about the people who are with you? Or they all get out safe? Tell us about that.
I believe one still there was inside. I saw her going to the kitchen door. So the shooter came from the kitchen door.
I understand this is like a college night?
Yeah.
Are you from a local college?
CCCI, Channel Islands.
Channel Islands? And how crowded was it inside?
Probably not massive, but crowded.
Have you come here before?
Yes.
Is it usually a pretty good crowd?
Yeah.
Nelly, take us to how you got out. What did you see when you were leaving? What was going on when you were leaving?
When I came out, I saw cops. They lead me out to the sidewalk, and I saw people coming out too, and they consulted me and what I was doing, and I ended up there. I immediately called friends.
When they led you out, did you see any people who were hurt?
No.
No. Did they lead you out the front?
Yeah.
Okay. Nelly, thank you so much for talking to us. We appreciate it. And you're listening to one of the young ladies inside the bar when the shooting started. A very chaotic situation. We're hearing bits and pieces from different people who are inside. It sounds like nobody so far saw the actual shooter in the act, but there was a smoke bomb, it sounds like, thrown, so visibility was obviously an issue. And of course, it was crowded, it was panic, so you can imagine the situation. We have another person joining us. Aiden, you're a local college student. You say you have a lot of friends in there. You're worried, obviously.
Yes, I am.
It sounds like this was a college night. Is that what goes on here?
Yeah, every Wednesday.
And what is involved?
College students line dancing to country music.
And have you talked to any of your friends who were inside?
No, that's why I'm still here. I'm just waiting to hear.
Okay. So Aiden's here waiting to talk to friends. Of course, we're trying to find people, too, who are inside to talk to as well. So, again, it's a very fluid situation. Ventura County Sheriff's handling it, a number of other different agencies involved now, too. All we know for sure at this point, 11 people wounded. Possibly a sheriff's deputy wounded as well, so a lot of different pieces coming together. But it's going to be a long morning out here, and we're continuing to gather information. But that's the latest here. John Gregory, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. Back to you, Mark and Michelle.
Okay, John, thank you very much. John arriving on scene there at this tragedy that is unfolding. You know, in the first hour or so after this thing happened, our reporter Joy Rand got there, and he spoke to a man who was there with his stepson, a man by the name of Tim, who gave what is perhaps one of the most heart-wrenching interviews that I have seen in a long time. He spoke not only of what happened and what he witnessed, but also how he felt and how it made him feel, the guilt that he felt about having survived this and watching other people who did not. We have that interview now, I believe. So let's roll that and listen.
I was to the front door. I was talking to my stepdad, and I just started hearing these big pops, pop, pop, pop. There was probably 3 or 4. I hit the ground. I look up. The security guard's dead, or I don't want to say dead, but he was shot. He was down, and the gunman was throwing smoke grenades all over the place. I saw him point to the back of the cash register. And he just kept firing. I ran out the front door. I hear chairs being thrown out the window. People were trying to get out the window. And the gunman went behind the cash register. There was probably 12 shots before I got out the front door. And I go out, I come back in to see if my stepdad's okay. I hear him yelling and I ran. But the gunman, he had a beard. He looked Middle Eastern or so. He was wearing a hat, black jacket. I think he had glasses on, like prescription glasses. He had a big handgun, and I mean, shots were just firing.
Are you okay?
I was closest. The security guard was closest to the front door. The two people behind the cash register were closest to the front door. I was the next person closest to the front door. I thought it was a joke when the shots started firing, and
I was right next to the entrance. We were getting ready to leave. We had some pool, and some smoke came in. I guess he had rolled some smoke in, and he fired the first shot, and I knew it was live. I knew it was real. And my son thought it was a joke. So I pulled him down and got some behind cover and looked up, and he was moving to the right. He shot the front doorman, bouncer, like just a young man. And he shot the cashier, just a young girl.
Copy that. You took the words out of my mouth. We have a hit coming up first, I think.
He wasn't looking at us. And he went into the office where all the cash and stuff is. He didn't say anything at all. He just started shooting. And I should have stayed till he changed his clip. But I was worried about my boy. But I should have stayed. I apologize to anybody who got hurt or passed. I'm sorry.
It's fine. There's not much you could have done in a situation like that.
But they're all young. I'm 56. I lived a life. They're all young. This shouldn't have happened to them. And it was just some low life taking lives that shouldn't have been taken.
Could you tell what kind of weapon he was using?
He had a handgun. I could tell it was allowed, maybe a 44, maybe a little smaller, but it had a good ring to it. And it was just loud, and he had smoke. He was trying to confuse people, and then he went to the right and just started shooting on the dance floor. And there were just young people, like young, 18, 19, 20, just having a great time. And this maniac came in and started shooting people for no reason at all. These people have never hurt anybody in their lives, and they're just kids. They're just kids. I'm so sorry.
So you two just got out of there as quick as you could. Could you tell how long the firing was going on?
It was constant until he changed clips, and then there was a pause, and he reloaded. And I'm sorry, I wasn't right there. And he kept on going, and then he reloaded, and then he kept on popping them off. And I waited for my son. He didn't follow me like I asked him to. And so I was running back to get him, and he came out. Thank you. And so I just got him out of there. She would have never forgiven me if he would have got hurt or tied. So I just got him and made sure he was okay. And then we just left, called 911. There was already an officer on the street really quick. But we had to get out of there, and I apologize for leaving.
Everyone, I think, had a good idea on what they were, because everyone pretty
Just really hard to watch that poor man, Tim, recount his experience as he tried to get his stepson out of there and to safety, and clearly dealing with some survivor's guilt. One of just hundreds of people who have been traumatized by this mass shooting this evening at the Borderline Bar and Grill that took place It started at 11:20 this evening. That's when the first shots rang out. And as Tim described there, it started when the gunman came through the front door and first shot the security guard who was working, and then turned the gun on the cashier and had smoke bombs as well. It was a very chaotic situation. As we've heard from numerous eyewitnesses, people who survived tonight and have talked to us, people used chairs and bar stools to break windows to get out. Some ran out the back door, and many of them, once they got out, they were waiting on a hillside for at least a half an hour, unsure to where to go. Just a horrible situation. And we've also learned that many of the people who were there tonight were actually at the Route 91 concert in Las Vegas. We just marked the 1 year anniversary of that, October 1st.
1 year, basically 1 year and 1 month ago, many of these people were at another situation where some 58 people were murdered, gunned down by another gunman in what is becoming an all too common situation here in this country, where someone walks into a public venue and opens fire. That has happened here now. And we have our Chris Christie. He was among the first to arrive, among the news helicopters to arrive on scene to describe what has been happening. The Air 7 HD is over the situation again. And Chris Christie, what are you able to tell from your vantage point now?
Yeah, Mark, unbelievable and all too familiar all at the same time. We're still over the Borderline Bar and Grill there. You can see they've now set up some red hazard tape around the building. That's basically, the building is basically completely locked down now. The entire area is one giant crime scene, and the FBI has now made entrance into the building, and they are now investigating as this whole situation enters a whole new phase. The official Code 4 was given, as you can see, as we've been reporting. Everything does appear to be under control. However, the bomb squad is still standing by, and we've spotted K9 units actually sniffing around the parking lot, going car by car, presumably looking for the vehicle that the shooter may have used to get here. And so we've seen that taking place. You can see flashlights in the parking lot. Unclear whether they've actually been able to focus in on any particular vehicle at this point, but that is one thing that is taking place in the parking lot as the bomb squad stands by. Just as a precaution, K9 units are sniffing around car by car, as you can see from this shot right here. We've also seen flashlights in the back of the building as well as they look for any further evidence. I also want to mention that the Ventura County deputy who was shot, one of the first responders, one of the first to arrive, was shot multiple times. He was taken to Los Robles Regional Medical Center, where there are now a number of Ventura County deputies now arriving at the hospital, and we're actually going to start making our way over to that location coming up in the next couple of minutes. So hopefully the next time we join you, we will have a live shot for you of that hospital, where there is now a contingent of law enforcement descending on the hospital in support of that deputy who was one of the first to arrive here and was shot multiple times. When we first got here, we actually spotted them performing CPR on him, and he was transported relatively quickly. But again, you're looking live at the parking lot of the Borderline Bar and Grill. All of this, a giant crime scene. You can see again that red tape around the building as the FBI, federal authorities, the ATF are there as well, making entrance into the building. So you've got some evidence markers right there at the front steps of the establishment. That'll all be part of this investigation. Just a giant crime scene, reminiscent of many of these scenes that we've covered here in the past. But that's the situation up here right now, guys.
Okay, Chris, thanks for the update. And we spoke a short time ago with the Thousand Oaks mayor, Andy Fox, and let's listen to that right now.
About 12 o'clock this evening, I was on my way home from actually my retirement party from the LA City Fire Department. I just retired as the assistant fire chief. I got a call about midnight that there had been a multiple shooting in Thousand Oaks. So responded here to the area, got briefed by the local first responders. It's my understanding that there were a number of casualties. I do not have a report on their condition. My understanding they're very serious. involved one of our law enforcement officers as well. Law enforcement responded, they engaged the shooter, neutralized the situation. It's under investigation at this time. The injured have been transported to various area hospitals, and you know, it's going to be a long, tough night for a number of families here, and so we need to keep them in our thoughts and prayers.
And any indication or any information on the suspect?
We don't have any information at this point in time. Again, Thousand Oaks is a safe community, but it's also a reminder that these things can happen virtually everywhere. And if somebody's intent on going in and doing damage and causing harm to folks, it's the old adage, if you see something, say something, remain vigilant. But again, a tragic situation here in our community.
And that particular bar restaurant, tell me about it.
It's a country western bar. It's been a long time since I've been inside, so I don't even remember the layout. It's my understanding it was a college night, so probably a number of young adults there. As you know, Cal Lutheran's located right here. And so I'm not sure what the event or what exactly transpired, but I do know that a number of casualties occurred as a result of the shooting.
It's going to be a long night for a lot of people.
It is.
All right, that was Andy Fox, the mayor of Thousand Oaks, talking to our Eileen Frere. We've got John Gregory now live. Let's go to John.
Yeah. So.
And Mark, we are back at the scene here just talking to some of the people coming out of this bar. A lot of people just being released by authorities. And bits and pieces of their stories. A terrible situation, obviously, for these folks. But we're getting a better image of the suspect, described as a man wearing all black, armed with a gun. Let's just listen in for a second.
It's your worst nightmare. I mean, it's terrible, and I'm not really in a position to be talking much about it. But I'm just thankful to be here and God's grace, and that's really all I have to say about it.
Some of those ladies over there told me that you helped.
As best I could, you know. A train kicked in and grabbed whoever I could and got him out, but there's only so much you can do. So that's really all I have to say. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Good night. Yeah.
And again, people really just kind of getting their heads around what happened here, and we are too. The scene very chaotic as police piece together the situation. We spoke with three young ladies earlier, giving us a description. They also described smoke bombs and then the shots being fired. One young lady told us the suspect was armed with a handgun, firing rapidly. She believes he reloaded. She did not see victims. She actually went into the rafters of the bar to hide out, and she was there for quite some time, maybe 45 minutes. So you can imagine what that was like as she was listening to the shots going off, and she was listening to the screaming and the confusion around her. So an incredibly difficult situation. These are college students mostly. It was some type of a college night here. And that was what was going on. Apparently very crowded evening, too. So a lot of people were inside the bar when this all started unfolding. And again, several witnesses say it started with these smoke bombs, so visibility immediately was terrible. And then the shots were being fired, and just a terrible situation for everybody involved out here. We're still getting more information. People still being released from the scene. And you can see they're here meeting up with loved ones. We just spoke with a dad who was waiting for his son. And his son was actually at the shooting in Las Vegas, too, if you can imagine that. But that's the latest here. John Gregory, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. Back to you, Mark and Michelle.
Okay, John, thank you very much. And we're going to go now to one of the hospitals where some of the injured have been taken. Mark Robles is live.
They're just west of the borderline and the Rolling Oaks Plaza.
Yeah, good morning. We are just outside of Los Robles Hospital. I want to direct our attention to a van down there. There's an employee walking in right now with a card. That is from United Blood Services. He arrived just a couple minutes ago, and oftentimes when we hear of these mass shootings, there is a call for blood donations. That vehicle and that equipment just arriving here minutes ago. So we are outside of the ER, this hospital 2.5 miles from the Borderline Bar and Grill here in Thousand Oaks. And over the past 5 to 10 minutes, there's that main door down there, down the drive to the ER. I did see law enforcement going in and out of that door. And again, we have confirmed that this hospital has been overwhelmed with patients, that patients have arrived here to this location. And according to the Ventura County Sheriff's Office earlier, they said that some some of these victims did transport on their own after the shooting, and that's why this is so fluid when it comes to the victims injured in this shooting, that there are numbers that we have from the shooting location 2.5 miles away from here at the Borderline Bar and Grill, and then here at the hospital, those who arrived. Now, keep in mind, we're now approaching some 3 hours after the gunfire rang out, and so even some 3 hours in, we're getting new information coming in. Again, that door opening and closing, people going in and out. Unclear if those are family members or victims. You can see some, looks like young ladies in sports gear walking out of the ER. So we're going to keep you posted. Again, this is Los Robles Hospital here in Thousand Oaks, very close to the Borderline Bar and Grill. We saw that blood going into the hospital, and again, law enforcement is on site. We have Ventura County Sheriff's deputies staged outside the hospital, and of course security around the facility as well. Mark and Michelle, that is the very latest. We'll keep you posted.
All right, Mark Cotto Robles reporting live from Los Robles Medical Center, where that deputy
Well, there we go. This man obviously really, truly a hero, not only helping a friend, but it sounds like he was helping one of the sheriff's deputies there as well. We can only imagine what those moments must have been like and how you keep your wits about you, how you keep your head clear and calm in order to, do what he did to get people out of there. Apparently he helped someone, one of his friends, get over a wall or through a room. Just mind-blowing. And again, we just thank people for taking the time to tell us exactly what happened here. Okay, we're trying to get a sense what happened. They got some heavy equipment here. Not really sure. This looks like a fire vehicle that they are bringing in. I'm not quite certain what this will be used for. We did see a number of larger vehicles from the sheriff's department. Usually those are used to collect evidence and to process a huge crime scene. This is a different situation here. So obviously it's going toward where the bar is. We don't know, though, what that is going to be used for. But just some harrowing stories here, just insanely difficult to hear. Incredibly powerful stories of survival. Yeah, I think you're right, Pat. That is a crane. You're right. Good eye. I think my eyes are, I'm a little blind by the blinking lights. But yeah, just absolutely incredible stories of people helping other people, people helping others survive, helping people live, knowing what was happening, not even taking a beat to panic and just get people out and get people to safety. Those are the kinds of stories we're hearing out here right now.
So much bravery, courage, and amazing to see how many young people have reacted at a time of such trauma and such danger. It's hard to imagine, again, as we're talking about this, and we have the graphic up, no threat to public, but we have just heard not long ago that there have been multiple people that have lost their lives to this, and that just changes the story dramatically, and in such a horrible way. College night at a local bar where many of these students or young people frequented maybe once a week or weekly for activities. So you figure maybe a lot of people knew each other or know they would at least see them on that particular night and not suspecting anything like this to happen. Jeff, I keep thinking over and over about how they describe this shooter. 6 feet,
about
200
6 feet,
pounds,
200, more than 200 pounds.
black trench coat.
Yeah. One report had him with a beard. That was the only report, though. And then the one father said, my daughter said he knew what he was there to do.
Yeah, he knew what he was doing with that weapon as well.
Exactly.
And our Cara Finstrom is on the scene. We're going to go to her now at her location. Cara?
By the time we got
Yeah, we're hearing from someone else that was inside at the time. I'm just going to jump in on this interview again. He was there and describing what he saw.
And we were just pulling stragglers who were still in the parking lot, calling people, and we were like, you need to get out of here right now.
How many people did you get through that window?
We probably pushed 30 or 35 people through that window.
Wow. And was this person shooting at you guys while you were doing this?
No, he was not shooting at us, not that I know of. No one around me was going down. He was focused more on that front area until he got done with that.
It sounds like you knew pretty quickly what was going on.
As soon as I looked up and as soon as I heard the shots, I knew exactly what was going on, and that was my worst fear.
There's confusion, it's crowded, there's music, but
yeah.
you figured it out pretty quickly. Why?
Instinct, I guess. That's all that I could do, but it was just I'm here to protect my friends, my family, my fellow humans, and I know where I'm going if I die, so I was not worried. I heard that also. All I wanted to do was get as many people out of there as possible. I heard that also, but by the time we were out of there, he hadn't thrown anything, and it hadn't gotten there yet.
Sir, we can see that you have blood on your shirt.
When we were going back to grab more people, someone was being pulled out with a chest wound, and the guys carrying him were tired, and so we took over and carried him to the paramedics. That's the only person that I actually came in contact with that had an injury from the attacker.
So you saw one wounded person?
One wounded person is what I personally saw, yeah.
And did you say you worked there?
Mm-mm.
Were you just at the bar with friends? Can you...
I'm here every week.
You're here every week. Can you walk us through again what you first saw, what you first heard?
I was talking by the far corner with my friends, just normal stuff we do every week, and then I heard loud shots that are not a normal thing to hear at a bar, and then looked over and saw the figure and knew exactly what was going on, and all I wanted to do was get my friends out of there.
Was he saying anything, the suspect? Did you hear him shouting?
Couldn't hear anything over the gunshots.
Did you get a look at the person with a gun?
Tall, dark figure with a handgun. That's full, all dark clothing and stuff like that.
Somebody said he's wearing a trench coat.
It's very possible.
Do you have any idea how many shots may have been fired? How long this went on for?
It was probably a 10 to 15 round magazine, something that's normal. But it was just semi-automatic, as many shots as he could pull, and then when it started to reload, that's when we got people out of there, and I didn't look back.
Any laser targeting thing on the gun?
It had a flashlight or a laser on the bottom, but it was not in use.
And I know a number of the people we've spoken with have been so grateful to the people who helped get them out, and you're very humble, but talk to us again about what you did at that point.
We just needed an exit, and there's not an exit on that side. It was either go through the balcony or towards where the shooter was active, or go all the way down the hall, and so we decided the best course of action was straight out the side.
So you smashed these windows out? How difficult was that? I mean,
one bar stool and straight through a window.
And then you just started.
And then we just moved the glass out of the way so people could get out, and then there's a wooden railing on the back side, and we were trying to get people on that, and then just jump down and push them as far away as possible.
Can you describe, was it panic? Were people screaming, running? What was going on?
There's definitely a lot of panic. A lot of people trying to call on the cell phone, and that's what I was trying to get rid of the most, was the least amount of light and noise that we could make and the fastest we could get out of there.
Okay, so again, one of the other accounts from someone who was inside the bar as that gunfire broke out and actually helped to get so many of those people inside out by breaking a window and making a way for them. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Cara. And we ask you to keep it here on CBS 2. We are efforting to get a phone number that we will put up where people can call to find out about their loved ones or get more information. Candace Crone is standing by. We understand, Candace, that you talked with a father who was there looking for his loved one.
That's right, Pat. I'm joined here with Ken Dunham. His son, Jake, is at borderline. He was with some friends tonight when the shooting happened, and Ken has been trying to reach his son. He's been calling him over and over. Ken, just kind of tell us what brought you here, how you found out about the shooting.
Well, he was there with a group of his friends. They chose to leave a little early. I don't know how his friend found out via social media or whatever, but I was woken up to a knock on my door about 1 o'clock this morning by him and his dad. my friend indicated that he was there with Jake at Borderline, and that he left before the incident happened, and that they haven't been able to get a hold of him since. So.
And you've been calling him, as
right.
you told me. What he hasn't, it's just been ringing. What has kind of been?
You know, if I had to guess, he's probably got hundreds of missed calls by now. You know, I mean, all these kids in the community are pretty well, tight with each other, and I know news travels fast through social media, so I'm just hoping that his phone did get lost, and that I hear from him soon.
How are you and your family feeling right now? I know this has got to be difficult, not being able to get in touch.
Frustrating, not knowing the uncertainty. I could handle, they found him, he's being transported. I can deal with that, but the uncertainty is what really kills you.
Just praying and hoping for the best. Situations like this, as we were speaking, it's frantic, it's chaotic. People are running. You could drop a phone, anything could happen. He could show up at a hospital, but I'm sure you guys are here together, just praying and hoping that he's okay.
Yes, we are. I reached out to the EOC, Emergency Operations Center, filed a report so that hopefully if anybody comes across his name, and they can put me in contact with him, at least put them in contact with me. So.
Have you been able to reach out to any of the local hospitals, or have?
We just lost the oldest, I believe, at this time.
A community like Thousand Oaks, it's so tight-knit. I mean, this really hits home. Just kind of talk about the impact that this is having right now for everybody.
It's huge. We don't have stuff like this. I heard sirens for 40 minutes, it seemed like, before the knock at the door, and I didn't want to open it because the sirens. We just don't hear sirens like that. And so, yeah, it's huge.
Had Jake talked about tonight wanting to go to Borderline and whatnot?
No, but it's like I said, it's not uncommon for him and his friends to get together and go shoot pool and listen to good music on college night. It's a lot of people show up for that. It's just, it's unfortunate that somebody has to come in and ruin it for a group of good people.
And so what information have you been able to get from law enforcement?
Next to nothing. That's why I came here. I listened to my scanner. I knew I couldn't get close to there. I heard you guys were setting up here, and I told my wife, I'm going. He says, somebody's got to know something. So here we are.
All right, Ken, thanks so much for speaking with us. We're hoping for the best for you and your family and for Jake as well. As you heard from Ken, he and his family have been trying to reach his son, who is at Borderline tonight, haven't been able to do so. So he came down here to try to get any information that he could as far as how many victims. But we do know, again, the shooter is dead, no threat there. Multiple fatalities is what I'm told. At this point, we are being informed that the sheriff is on his way. Other law enforcement officials are going to be giving us an update here very shortly. So as soon as we get new information, of course, we'll pass it along to you. But for now, Pat, I'll send it back to you.
Oh. Thank you, Candace.
Ken Dunham, wish Mr. Dunham and his family the very best. There's a lot of people here praying for him as well. All right, we want to go to Tom Waite now. Tom?
Tom, are you there?
Sheriff. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me, guys?
Yes, we can hear and see you, Tom.
Okay. Okay, fantastic. So, yeah, the Ventura County Sheriff is expected to give a press conference here, right where I'm standing, basically in about 15 minutes, to give us an update on what's going on at this point. Right now, it definitely feels like this scene is changing a little bit in terms of how the Sheriff's Department, how the law enforcement here, fire and paramedics are handling the situation. It is sort of becoming, to me, more appearance as though this is becoming a situation where they're processing evidence, gathering their clues, gathering all of that. We don't know, though, exactly what's happening because it's all going on way in the distance over there. That's where the huge nightclub / bar is, the Borderline bar. Just to kind of go through some of the stuff we've been hearing from witnesses, we understand that the bar tonight, this is the country night for college students. So there's a lot of young students, young people here that come to this bar. A very popular night. We're told this is a fixture in the community from people who grew up here. So a number of people inside. We're told maybe 100 at one point on the dance floor, in the dance floor area, when this gunman opened fire when he entered the building. We spoke with one man who says that after the suspect and the officer or deputy shot the suspect, that this man, one of the guys here who was in the club, actually helped bring that officer into a squad car so that he could get to the hospital, so he could get help. We don't know the condition of that deputy. The last count of wounded was 11. We understand from Stu that it's pretty obvious that there is a casualty. Whether that casualty is the actual gunman, we don't know. We don't know at this point. It could be. We know that the gunman has been contained. We know that could mean that either he was shot and killed or arrested, or just he's trapped in the facility or in the bar where this all unfolded. Number of different reports about whether or not this gunman used smoke bombs to distract and divert, to confuse people. But from what we can tell is, from what people are saying, there was smoke. For whether that was from the weapons being fired off, we don't know. People describing all kinds of harrowing situations of jumping out windows, using bar stools to escape, using anything they could to divert the gunman, to get get themselves to safety, get on the ground. And we're hearing so many people talk about helping their friends survive this insanely horrible experience. Of course, people were coming here tonight for a fun night out with their friends, and then this unimaginable, just hideous tragedy unfolds right in front of them. All you can do, you go from one moment of taking selfies and enjoying moments with your friends to now trying to figure out how you're going to survive, how you're going to be able to escape a situation. Sorry, something just fell in front of us. Wasn't sure what that was. It's these situations boggle the mind, because you have to go from one moment of absolute fun and just a good night to how am I going to live? How am I going to go home tonight? And then, you're worried about talking to your family. We talk to people who are texting their family, texting their friends, calling their families, seeing these reunions right in front of us, seeing families, embracing each other, the tears and the crying, just knowing that 5 minutes ago they didn't know if their family member was alive. I mean, just think about that. Think about at that time of the evening, not knowing whether or not, from one moment, my son is out having a great night, my friend's out having a great night, to then you're getting a text message that there is a active shooter inside of this bar. So just, of course, the fact that it's not even a horrific roller coaster for people who are trying to determine whether or not maybe don't even know at this point are going to make it through. We don't know if news has gotten to families and friends. We don't know how many people are still inside of that building. And of course, the fact that so many young people were in there. So many factors, so many people. These are young people whose parents probably, maybe don't even know at this point what happened to them. We don't know if news has gotten to families and friends. We don't know how many people are still inside of that building at this point. So many factors, so many moving parts to this horrific situation. And again, one of the things we're so grateful, we talked about this earlier, the folks coming out here and talking to us after such a traumatic situation, such a horrific situation where, you can't even put into words how scary it is to have something like this happen to you, and then to come and tell us about it. We just so appreciate it, so we can, get the information to folks as they try to hear about it. We are setting up right now. It looks like I'm just going to move out of the way, kind of get a sense of what's happening here. I think we are waiting for the sheriff to get here to the scene, and when he does, we will bring it to you. But that's kind of the situation as it is right now. Let's go back to you, Pat and Jeff.
All right, Tom Wade, thank you so much. Peter Dowd here with Suzanne Marquez. We continue our coverage here on CBS 2 News of this mass shooting at a bar and nightclub in Thousand Oaks. Let's get to our Cara Finstrom. She's also live at the scene now. Cara, what can you tell us?
Peter, a number of the people who witnessed this, who survived this, are now starting to come down from the area of Borderline Bar and Grill. And I want to just pan up. We're keeping at a distance because some of them still very emotional. They're wrapped in yellow tarps, in blankets coming down. I also just spoke with a husband and wife who are trying to get information about their son. They were beside themselves. Did not want to speak with us on camera right now, said they've been trying to call, he's not picking up, and they're very, very worried. You can see also that we've got some National Guard and police officer folks in SWAT gear, rather, walking through here, kind of making sure that everything is secure. Not getting a lot of information right here about what is going on, but I can just kind of orient you. The bar and grill is just beyond all of those, that line of police cars that you see, and everything here sealed off. So as these folks who witnessed this, some of them still looking for friends who were there with them, come out as police release them after they speak with them. They're all heading down through this area and kind of gathering here. Many of them have left already, and we've spoken with a number of them being reunited with parents who are looking for them, and some of them going now to the hospital also to check on friends, family members who headed there, one to get stitches. We spoke with one family, 3 members of the same family here to celebrate the youngest 18th birthday. All 3 of them came out okay, but the youngest needed stitches at the hospital, and one of the boys, one of the brothers, had an injury to his leg. So Peter, Suzanne, will continue to try to get some more information here. A little calmer now, but now families trying to reunite.
The types of injuries of the people who are being treated at the hospital right now are unknown.
And officials say the number of those injured is likely to go up. If 35 people escape out of one of those windows, we do believe that the suspect is dead inside the restaurant right now, so the scene is safe. But right now, investigators are on scene gathering evidence. It's unclear at this point what type of weapon the gunman used or how many guns he used. We are being told it is described as a semi-automatic. That gunman, we're told, also shot the security guard at the entrance, including a cashier. She's described as a young woman who was also inside the bar. And then the gunman threw several smoke bombs, possibly to cause confusion. He opened fire with some type of a scarf or covering over his face. He was wearing possibly a hoodie or dark clothing.
And our Candace Crone is live at the command post right now. Candace, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Suzanne and Peter, we're seeing a few more people show up here minute by minute looking for information, having friends or family members inside of Borderline not being able to contact them. I just spoke to a father who's been calling his son, his 21-year-old son, over and over. He said he probably has hundreds of missed calls from him, trying to reach out to see if he's okay, but hasn't been able to get any answers just yet. I want to give you a look at the scene here, the mobile command center. We've got sheriff deputies and
Lutheran. So you had a lot of
other law enforcement officials here. We're expected to get another update very shortly. We're told that the sheriff and other law enforcement officials are on their way here to the scene to give us an update, but we do know that there are multiple fatalities. Sergeant Bishop told me earlier this morning that he wasn't able to give an exact number of how many people may have been shot and killed, but he said they have multiple fatalities. 11 patients was the last number that we got. We were able to confirm that the shooter is dead, confirmed deceased, and so that there is no threat at this point to the public is what I'm told. So right now, we have seen additional people show up here trying to get information about where their loved one is. It's a lot of young people there from what I have been told there tonight, and so we've had a couple of parents show up distraught, fighting back tears, not being able to get in touch with their loved ones. So as I mentioned, we're standing by for a news conference, hopefully here within the next 10 minutes. We've got, looks like a City of Thousand Oaks, another command center here showing up, possibly city leaders. We did see a councilman out here earlier, but a very active scene, very fluid, getting new information here very shortly. So as soon as we get additional details, of course, we'll pass them along to you guys.
Thank you so much, Candace. Of course, a very hectic scene out there. People showing up, trying to find loved ones. At least 200 students were inside the bar when this gunfire erupted, when the gunmen entered and started throwing smoke bombs. Most of them college students from nearby schools like Cal Lutheran, the Cal State Channel Islands, and Moore Park College. One young woman was out there celebrating her 18th birthday. And they say every Wednesday it's college night. They go out for country music, line dancing. It's a celebratory atmosphere. People out there talked about people throwing bar stools and chairs through windows and pushing them through the broken windows and carrying others to safety, and you're seeing that on video. We've also seen video of parents reuniting with their children. And right now, for people who can't find loved ones, who are searching for them, there is a hotline that has been released by the Ventura County Sheriff's Office. The number is 805-465-6650. We're going to get that on your screen soon. There it is right there. If you are looking for a loved one in Thousand Oaks who you think may have been at the bar this evening, call this number, 805-465-6650. There are people posting on social media pictures of loved ones who they can't find. There are teens who went out to the scene because they got calls asking if they were at the bar. They've been texting their friends. Of course, it's the middle of the night, so some people might be sleeping, some people might have left their phones at the bar, so there's a lot of miscommunication where people can't contact each other.
And Suzanne, one of the ironies in all this is several of the students who were at this bar tonight were also at the Route 91 festival in Las Vegas, where, of course, that other mass shooting took place. We're told that many of the victims have been taken to Los Robles Medical Center, which is about 2.5 miles from that restaurant. We continue to look live right now at this massive crime scene. You can see the Ventura County Fire Department is out there. Several agencies on the scene right now, including the FBI, the Alcohol and Tobacco Firearms and Explosives Bureau, Simi Valley Police, Oxnard Police, Sheriff's deputies. Just a huge, huge scene that has been shut down right now. And again, we are hearing that there are reports of multiple deaths, including the gunman himself. At this point, we don't know what his motive is, but we do know that he came in wearing dark clothing, possibly a trench coat, covered his face, not only used guns, but also smoke bombs to create a chaotic scene out there. So right now, investigators are sort of trying to piece everything together as they try to figure out exactly what caused or led up to this mass shooting tonight. But again, at this point, we do know that there are multiple deaths, at least 11 people confirmed shot.
And the people who were out at the scene, you could see they were helping them each other into ambulances. Los Robles Medical Center has been reportedly overwhelmed by the number of people who have been transported to the hospital early this morning. And people at the bar report that people they didn't know told them to get down, that they were helping each other, and they described each other as a family out there. And they felt particularly victimized because of the Route 91 festival. They talked about, when are we going to be able to get away from this kind of shooting and this kind of massacre where they feel safe around a lot of their friends, an easygoing Wednesday night, a weekly experience that they have with their friends where they're basically stuck in one location and shot like fish in a barrel.
And you know, you mentioned, Suzanne, this was college night, so at least 200 college students from Cal State, Channel Islands, Cal Lutheran, and Moore Park College, they were all gathered inside the Borderline Bar and Grill when all this happened around 11:20 Wednesday night, so just a few hours ago, but certainly very chaotic scene. These folks were out there listening to country music, line dancing, when suddenly chaos broke out. But again, you can see investigators are piecing together the evidence right now, gathering the clues. We are waiting for a news conference that is set to begin any moment now, that's going to give us an update with the latest numbers and the latest information. But at this point, again, we're still trying to sort through some of this, what took place tonight. I do believe we have Candace Crone, our reporter, live at the scene right now. She's got an update for us. Candace, can you hear us? Candace? All right, well, we're going to effort to get her momentarily, but at this point, again, we are still looking at this scene here in Thousand Oaks, 99 Rolling Oaks Drive. Oh, there we go. Candace, can you hear us?
Okay. Yes, I can hear you. I'm standing here with Wyatt Condon. He came up here because he's got about 5 friends who are at Borderline this morning, or last night. They went to have some fun, and so he's been trying to get in touch with them, hasn't been able to. So we came up here to the mobile command center to try to get some information. Wyatt, just kind of tell us how you found out about what happened and then what brought you here.
Yeah, actually, I was just about to head to bed, and then I received a message asking if I was home, because I normally do go to Borderline, and I just received something that said there was a mass shooting at Borderline, so I immediately started calling all my friends who were there. A lot of them didn't get responses. Several I did, which I was very thankful that I did hear from them. And so I heard one of my friends was looking for his brother, and the family. I just figured it would be great if I could be there for them. So I came down here. We've been all over the place looking for them, going to hospitals, all over the place. Still no sign, nothing. It's just scary. There's no words to really describe it.
And for the friends that you haven't been able to get in touch with, I'm assuming you've been calling them and just haven't been getting an answer. What's going through your mind right now?
It's just scary. It's frightening not knowing what's really happening, because I don't really know, still don't really know what's happening. All this mixed information I'm hearing from different people. It's frightening. Really,
Had your friend talked about wanting to come out last night for the country music night, or do you guys just kind of go often?
Yeah, we just go whenever we kind of feel like it. Was college night, so there was a lot more people there, unfortunately. So, yeah, it's just kind of a fun night to go hang out. And unfortunately, this happened.
What information have you guys been able to get from law enforcement officials? I know your friend's father has been talking. What have they been telling you guys?
They've been telling us, so we haven't heard anything from our friends, and they say that's actually a really good thing, that we haven't heard anything from law enforcement or anything. So they just say keep hoping and praying that it'll be okay, because they don't know either, unfortunately.
Are they thinking maybe that they just kind of ran, they dropped their phone possibly, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, most of the officers that we've talked to said a lot of the people there dropped their phones when they were running, and just haven't been able to get a hold of anyone, and a lot of them scattered, knowing people throughout the neighborhood, just kind of running to their house. So just a lot of them dropped their phone. Yeah.
And how long do you guys plan to be here, and what's your next step?
Until we hear from them, until we find out anything, really. You know, we can't just go on without knowing. So as long as it takes.
All right, Wyatt, thank you so much. We do wish you the best, and hopefully you get in touch with everyone that you've been looking for, all your friends. We are expected to get an update here very shortly. We also did just learn that there is a center for family members trying to reunite or get information about their loved one. It's at the Global Senior Center is what we've been told on Jan's Road. So we're hoping to get more information about that as soon as we can get this update from law enforcement officials. But that is the very latest. Peter and Suzanne, for now, I'll send it back to you guys.
Thank you so much, Candace, live at the scene in Thousand Oaks. And our Sky 2 is over the scene right now. If you're just catching up with us, at least 11 people confirmed shot out there in Thousand Oaks, several people dead. A witness said the gunman shot a security guard when he walked in through smoke bombs. He says he also shot a cashier inside, who the witness described as a young girl, and said that the gunman had a scarf over his face or a beard, covered in dark clothing and a hoodie. And a lot of the people who were inside the club said they waited for his clip to run out and waited for him to reload. And when he did that, that's when people tried to run to safety. And you can see that there are FBI members out there, ATF, SWAT, it appears, at the scene. But the gunman, we have heard from the Ventura County Sheriff's Office, has been confirmed dead at the scene, we think inside the club.
And some of the stories that we've heard tonight from witnesses and people who are inside the bar have been heartbreaking. Family members showing up to the scene, trying to find their loved ones. They have not been able to make contact. So at this point, they're trying to figure out just what's going on. We also know that a lot of people have been taken to the hospital, to Los Robles Medical Center, about 2.5 miles away. And we're told the hospital is just overwhelmed right now, trying to treat all of the victims. So certainly a very tragic and just a horrible situation for everyone involved right now. Let's go back to CBS News' Cara Finstrom, who is at the scene. She spoke with some of those witnesses. Cara?
Peter, we just had a car fly up here, a mother jump out looking for her son, who was a bouncer at the bar, desperate for some information. So such a difficult time for these people as they try to figure out and to find their loved ones. I want to bring in Nick. We spoke with him earlier during this evening. We're with Cal Lutheran. You're trying to get people this information. Tell me about the efforts underway.
So as of right now, the university is implementing a grievance kind of area on campus for students to go and congregate, as well as having professionals there to talk with them and, just assist them through this difficult process. And I know there's lists that are attempting to be generated on students that are missing or unaccounted for at this point in time that we're trying to locate. And right now it's just a waiting game that's very stressful and full of anxiety.
You also had a friend who was injured. Talk to us about him, and what do you know about him at this point?
So one of my friends, and she's also a student at Cal Lutheran, was injured and was brought to the hospital. We're not sure of the status and how she was hurt, so we're still waiting for information on that. Other than that, I haven't heard of anyone else that was transported to the hospital or individuals that had been injured or deceased.
You've got a number of representatives from the university here as well, and I've seen them talking with some of these family members.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know the president of our university, Chris Kimball, is here, as well as a lot of other staff members that are here trying to work with the city and other government agencies to resolve this, or not resolve this issue, but work towards finding how we can best serve the students and assist him in this difficult time.
All right, thanks so much for joining us here live. Peter, Suzanne, I spoke with one man earlier who had blood on his T-shirt. He is one of the people who broke some windows and helped people flee as those gunshots were ringing out. And I want to toss it back to you because I understand we may have some updated information back there.
That's right, Cara. We have a news conference that is starting right now. Let's listen in.
Thank you. Okay. Got it. So, to provide you with the latest information on this incident, I want to introduce on my left Sheriff Jeff Dean. Excuse me. This is the Sheriff of Ventura County. Name is spelled G-E-O-F-F. Last name is spelled D-E-A-N. On my right is Ryan Young. He's a special agent in charge of the Los Angeles Field Office of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. His name is spelled R-Y-A-N. Last name is Y-O-U-N-G. Also on my right is L.D. Maples. He's the chief of the Coastal Division of the California Highway Patrol. First name is spelled L.D. Last name Maples, M-A-P-L-E-S. So right now I'm going to hand it over to Sheriff Dean to give you the latest.
Good morning. You're all experienced reporters, and you understand this is a dynamic, ongoing investigation and a tragic situation. So I'll go through the details. I'll share with you everything I have, and we'll answer all the questions you may have. Our partners from the FBI and the Highway Patrol will also answer any additional questions you might have. Tonight at 11:20 p.m., Sheriff's 911 received multiple calls of shots being fired at the Borderline Bar and Grill in Thousand Oaks. Our first sheriff's unit arrived on scene. 3 minutes later, there was also 2 Highway Patrol officers on scene who had been on a local traffic stop and heard the traffic and responded right away. Approximately 3 minutes later, a Highway Patrol officer and a sheriff's sergeant made entry into the Borderline because they heard shots being fired and felt there might be additional victims inside. Upon going through the front door, the sheriff's sergeant was struck multiple times with gunfire. The Highway Patrol officer stepped back and secured the perimeter until additional units arrived, and he rescued the sheriff's sergeant out of the line of gunfire. When additional units arrived, including SWAT personnel, agencies from the Oxnard Police Department, the Simi Valley Police Department, the Ventura Police Department, and additional officers from the Highway Patrol, they made entry into the Borderline Bar and Grill. They found 11 victims that had been killed. The suspect, who we believe was the only suspect, was dead inside. And there were multiple other victims of different levels of injury inside that were rescued from the scene and taken to local hospitals. In addition to the victims inside, and the numbers are upwards of 10 to 12, additional victims with minor injuries fled the scene on their own and took themselves to local hospitals. We have not identified the suspect yet. Our partners from the FBI were on scene almost immediately to help us with the identification process and with crime scene processing. We have no idea if there is a terrorism link to this event or not. As you know, these are ongoing investigations, and that information will come out as soon as we're able to determine exactly who the suspect was and what motive he might have had for this horrific event. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. Well, the Sergeant Hillis died at the the sergeant passed away at the hospital about an hour ago. I only mentioned it might be terrorists because that's where we all go these days when we have multiple shootings like this. There's no reason for it, and we have this horrific death. I have nothing to lead me to believe, or the FBI, that there is any terrorism link here, but we certainly will look at that option. I'm sorry? What do you mean by devices? There's some initial reports that a smoke bomb might have been used. We have not found anything yet. We actually have called in our bomb team to go in through, and we have a couple bomb dogs here that are checking the area, but we haven't found any other explosive device or confirmation that there was a smoke device.
What does that make you think if there was a smoke device?
Hindsight and speculation is pretty easy. You would think if someone throws a smoke device that it was certainly more of a planned attack and not something spontaneous.
Also the sergeant, how long was he on the force? Anything about him?
Sergeant Hillis was on the force for 29 years, was looking to retire in the next year or so. He was a Moore Park resident and is survived by his wife and his son.
What is his name?
Ron Hillis, H-E-L-U-S. Well, the question is, Thousand Oaks is a safe community. What do I make of this? I make that it's a horrific incident. It's part of the horrors that are happening in our country and everywhere. And I think it's impossible to put any logic or any sense to the senseless. When the officers made entry, the suspect was already deceased. There were 11 victims. I will not count the suspect as a victim, the suspect, and then Sergeant Hillis. 11 victims, the suspect makes 12, and Sergeant Hillis makes 13. No, we have not.
What about the weapon?
Take his own life. It would appear that way.
Well,
but
certainly we have to wait for the medical examiner to get here. We have to do family notification. So candidly, it'll be hours and hours.
Do you know if the suspect had visited this bar before? Has anybody said it?
We don't know anything about the suspect. We haven't talked to anybody that had any contact with him prior.
Do you know if he lived here?
Well, I actually have no idea who he is. We don't know anything about him yet.
What about the ages of the victims? The ages of the victims, can you tell us that they were young?
I actually don't know what the ages were. It is a nightclub, so I would, speculate they were probably in the 21 to 26-year-old age group.
Can you talk about if active shooter training played a role in the sergeant, going in and trying to confront the suspect immediately?
There's no doubt that the change in how we handle active shooters played a role. Sergeant Hillis and the High Patrol officer first on scene, they knew they had to take action, and they went in and did what they had to do.
One more time. 13 people dead?
Yes, 13.
And how many injured?
We don't know how many are injured because they went to separate hospitals. I'm going to speculate, given what I've heard, somewhere between 10 and 15 additional injuries. And we don't know, we don't believe there might be one additional gunshot victim, but we think there are other injuries, people trying to escape, breaking out windows and doing different things.
When you see these shootings happen across the country, did you ever think that it would be happening right here in the city?
I've been a cop for 41 years, and I never thought I would see the things around the country that would happen, but I've learned it doesn't matter what community you're in, it doesn't matter how safe your community is, it can happen anywhere. Because obviously for someone to do this, they have to have some sort of mental illness, and sadly we have people with mental illness all over the country.
Sheriff, were there any threats to anybody in the bar, any kind of indication something like this could happen?
We have actually no information about that at all. But again, we're very early on in the investigation.
Do you know what happened? We heard that he went inside, shot the security guard, and then kind of went in and started shooting. Is that what happened? Can you walk us through?
We actually don't know. I mean, we're interviewing multiple witnesses, but
I can say no, but we haven't got everybody together yet to really put that timeline together, and we'll certainly provide that as soon as we can get something. You know, it's so tragic, and losing Ron, you know, we go to the gym together, work out together, is horrific and terrible, and it saddens our heart. But there's also parents of those 11 other victims in there whose hearts are ripped out tonight. And I know there's parents wondering, oh my gosh, you know, what was one of my children in there, or was it my sister or my brother? So there's just no way to describe this. It saddens us all, and it tears at our hearts and emotions, as it should. And if we ever get to the point where it doesn't, then there's something wrong with us.
Sheriff, can you talk about after Parkland? There's a lot of questions about police not being active enough, and it does sound like your sergeant really was proactive. What was the thought process in the department after Parkland? How have things changed?
Actually, it changed for us after Columbine, years and years ago, and we trained with our fire department for active shooting, and our officers know when you get to a scene and there's two of you or even just one of you and there's shooting going on, you go in. And that's a change of philosophy of what it used to be. And we worked so well in our county. The Highway Patrol was here. When they made entry the second time tonight, there were Simi Valley officers, there were Oxnard officers, there were Ventura officers, there were sheriff's deputies, and there were Highway Patrol officers. Everyone comes together to solve the problem.
And just a clarification on the timeline there, from the moment that the first contact was made to the moment that the second.
So the time frame, so the first deputies arrived on scene at 11:22. They made entry approximately 4 minutes later. That's when Sergeant Hillis was shot. And it was, and I don't have the exact timeline, it was probably close to 15 minutes. They didn't hear any shots fired before they regrouped, got additional officers, and went back in. And there were people hiding in restrooms. There were people hiding in attics.
Do you have an idea of how many people were at the bar?
I have no idea.
Sheriff, what other scenes are you and your law enforcement partners investigating in relation to this, what happened here?
What other, I'm sorry?
What other locations?
None that I know of, but certainly when we find out who the suspect is, we'll go to his location and we'll work with our bureau partners to see if there's a connection there. But at this time, there's none other that I know of.
Was the suspect armed with multiple weapons, or was it just one?
Right now, as far as we know, there was only one handgun, but that could certainly change as we do a more thorough search of the building.
And can you clarify? You said the suspect was down when police entered the building.
The suspect was down with a gunshot wound when the officers went into the building. Yes.
The deputy was shot by the suspect after making.
We don't know who shot the deputy.
Do you know who shot the victim? Was it self-inflicted?
We don't know who shot anybody at this point.
Sheriff, can you describe the suspect, age, Caucasian?
I probably shouldn't comment on that at this time.
The age, even just an age.
It would be a total guess. It's a horrific scene in there. There is blood everywhere, and the suspect is part of that. And I didn't want to get that close and disturb the scene and possibly jeopardize the investigation. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Did the witnesses say they were trapped inside for, what was their reaction? Can you describe what happened to you?
They're being interviewed by our by our investigators. I honestly don't know exactly what they said at this point. I wanted to get that information as soon as I could to you, and we'll continue to follow up. I have no idea what happened inside there.
Your ID 5022?
Yes. Anything else?
Is there a message you want to send to his family?
I've met with them and talked to them. We spent time. I've made sure I talked to them before we release the name. Well, by the time, I would say an hour and a half maybe. I don't want to waste your time and have you come up and I don't have anything. You know, if we can get information about what the witnesses said inside or any additional on the suspect, we'll have our PIOs let you know. But I don't want to waste your time by bringing you if we don't have anything new.
How many mass shootings have you had in the county? This is the first one in the county.
Mass shoot? I don't remember in my 41 years having a mass shooting.
Sheriff, what would you like us to know about the sergeant? What should everyone know about him?
Ron was a hard-working, dedicated sheriff sergeant. He was totally committed. He gave his all, and tonight, as I told his wife, he died a hero because he went in to save lives, to save other people.
Station 1321.
One question here, and for those parents who
321. Driver of the vehicle is advising that a Hispanic male attempted to enter his vehicle with a knife. You have 3 out of 3, 1198 my location.
I believe we have a victim's hotline. And the PIOs will give you the victim's hotline number where they can call to check and just make sure.
Route to 3 Adam 21. Hispanic male attempted to enter the vehicle with a knife.
They went to multiple hospitals.
Station 13 Adam 21 continuing. Male suspect wearing all black. Ran to mobile
okay,
home
thank
park
you.
west of Wells.
So real quick, that hotline number for people to call.
Suspect was seen fleeing towards the mobile home park west of Wells, wearing all black. 23 copy.
It's area code 805.
One more time.
805-465-6650. Station 13 advise when you're ready to copy the place. Go ahead. California personalized King Edward Paul, Union Henry Paul. 10-5. Sam 2129 clear, 28 comes back.
He charged into this nightclub to try and save lives, and he was shot and killed. We've spoken to a lot of people out here, a lot of young college students who were inside the bar at the time. It was some type of college night event going on, and that's why it was crowded with college students. And they described complete chaos. Many of them heard the shots and immediately knew what was going on. We spoke with one young man, another hero, I might say, who smashed out a window and started getting people out through that window. And we also spoke with some people who got out through that window and saying their lives were saved by him. So just chaos, heroism, all of it unfolding in a matter of minutes as this suspect entered the Borderline Bar and Grill and started shooting. Some people describe the suspect as a man with all black, wearing all black, possibly a trench coat. They say he was armed with a semi-automatic handgun and that he fired at least one clip and then reloaded several times at least. The results, again, 11 people inside shot and killed. The suspect also dead. Authorities not saying how he died at this time. It's possible he may have taken his own life, but it's pretty early in the investigation. And of course, Sergeant Helis shot and killed as he entered the bar Sergeant Healis was first on scene with a CHP officer. The two of them tried to make entry when they heard the shots going off, and that's when he was shot and killed. So just a terrible, terrible situation. You could hear the Ventura County Sheriff breaking up as he tried to talk about what happened. The sergeant who was killed, a 29-year veteran, everybody knows him, and that includes the sheriff here. Says he went to the gym with him, and so he's a good friend, and that's just sinking in, I think, with this department. This whole event just sinking in. It's early in the morning, and a lot of people probably aren't even aware of it yet. But 11 people dead here in Thousand Oaks, and also a sheriff's sergeant and the suspect, and a lot of questions about why and who this person is, and it may be several hours, maybe days before we have some of those answers. We're live in Thousand Oaks. John Gregory, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. Back to you.
Okay, John, thank you very much for that. In addition to that, 10 to 15 additional injuries is what the sheriff said, and one of those is probably a gunshot wound. But these people were taken to the hospital by friends and other people.
Hundreds of people were in this bar. There were Pepperdine students, there were Cal Lutheran students, so a lot of people being able to tell their story about what happened, what they experienced. Here's something that we heard from earlier this evening.
I was to the front door. I was talking to my stepdad, and I just started hearing these big pops, pop, pop, pop. There was probably 3 or 4. I hit the ground. I look up. The security guard's dead. Or I don't want to say dead, but he was shot. He was down. And the gunman was throwing smoke grenades all over the place. I saw him point to the back of the cash register. And he just kept firing. I ran out the front door. I hear chairs being thrown out the window. People were trying to get out the window. And the gunman went behind the cash register. There was probably 12 shots before I got out the front door. And I go out, I come back in to see if my stepdad's okay. I hear him yelling, and I ran. But the gunman, he had a beard. He looked Middle Eastern or so. He was wearing a hat, black jacket. I think he had glasses on, like prescription glasses. He had a big handgun, and I mean, shots were just firing.
So that's a witness talking about some of the things that you really heard from Sheriff Jeff Dean a moment ago. Just to give you an idea, to kind of reset where we are here at 3:15 in the morning. This all began at 11:20 last night. Reports are that the suspect involved here just walked into the front door, and the witnesses say the first person shot was the security guard at the door, and then he moved to the cashier and then threw out. And then the sheriff explained that at 11:22, that was their first call, so roughly right around that time, and by 11:26, officers were there, and the first officer who went in was Sheriff Sergeant Ron Healis, who was shot and killed.
And he also described how since Columbine, they have changed the way they approach these situations when there is a shooting. And when the first deputies get there, they are to go inside and not wait around.
And if you remember Columbine, and it was 20 years ago now, but Columbine, there was much criticism with response from authorities because you knew what was going on inside the school, and you could see images of officers outside. And so that's what Sheriff Dean's talking about, where they saw that, they changed their policy. If there are 2 officers who arrive, they go in. So that policy, in a sense, Ron Healis lost his life, but who knows how many people he might have saved by going in. We do know a lot of people were injured. Some of them obviously shot, others injured, trying to cut out windows, cuts, minor injuries. Mark Cota-Robles is live at one of the hospitals, Los Robles, I believe. And Mark, earlier I saw you with people showing up with blood for victims. Can you tell us more about what you've seen at the hospital this morning?
Yeah, setting the scene for you, Philip. This is about 2.5 miles away from the Borderline Bar and Grill. We're still in Thousand Oaks. This is Los Robles Hospital. We are outside of the ER. I'll step out of the way. You can see the front door here to the ER down this driveway behind us. I don't want to say that it was chaotic when we arrived, but we did see a lot of law enforcement going in and out of the ER, that door that you see. Some of that activity has reduced just a bit. We have a Ventura County Sheriff's Department crime scene investigators on scene at this location. And again, we can confirm that Sergeant Sergeant Rod Helis, who was killed in the shooting. He was brought to this hospital. We are told this is where he died, as you have said, as we heard from John Gregory. Sergeant Rod Helis, along with that CHP officer, they were the first law enforcement officers to go inside of that bar and grill amid the gunfire, and that sergeant shot and then brought out of the grill. Again, 13 killed, among them the sheriff's sergeant and the suspect. So we have 11 other victims who were killed in the shooting, but everyone else, we are told, in the ballpark of 12 other victims who were injured, many of them brought to this hospital, Los Robles Hospital and Medical Center, again 2.5 miles from the scene, and some of them were not transported by ambulance. We were told that many were brought here by others, by friends, after they got out of the location. We don't have any information about the extent of those injuries. At one point, the sheriff, Jeff Dean, saying some of the injuries were minor, and so we know those people are recovering. They are being treated here at Los Robles Medical Center, so we will keep you posted with the very latest. Certainly more than 3 hours after the shooting, this remains a developing situation. We are live in Thousand Oaks. Mark Cotorobles, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. Philip, Leslie, back to you.
Okay, Mark, have you been able to find out exactly how many victims were taken to the hospital where you are, and have hospital officials told you anything at all?
We have not had any briefing from hospital officials, and the best information that we have is that ballpark, at least 12, up to 12 people who were injured, and we believe many, if not all of them, were brought to this hospital. The hospital staff telling ABC News overnight that they were overwhelmed with victims, but we do not have any hard numbers aside from what was presented and provided at that news conference. The 13 killed, including the suspect, and then up to 12 victims that were injured, many of them taken to this location.
Mark, if I could ask you another thing regarding people who are arriving at that hospital, because again, such a chaotic element in that people just were dispersed to all the hospitals in the area. Have you been seeing family members show up, or people showing up trying to find out if they know of anybody? Have you seen others arrive and depart either relieved or despondent? What have you seen when it comes to people arriving at the hospital?
We've been here for well over an hour, but keep in mind that was upwards of 2 hours after the shooting. This is the ambulance entrance to the ER, so we do not see family members going into this entrance. However, earlier down the driveway, we did see some young ladies who appeared to be in workout gear, so it did not look like these were hospital staff, perhaps family members of some of the victims that were here at the hospital. There's another driveway that other people are going in and out where there's a parking structure. I saw another vehicle kind of zooming out in a hurry. Unclear who exactly is arriving to this location, but as we heard, because this is developing, there's so many people that we know of who can't get a hold of family members, cell phones that were left, people who had to run out in a hurry, and so there's a lot of confusion. We can only assume with family members trying to get a hold of their loved ones. Again, there's not a huge crowd at this location when it comes to extended family members. That may increase as more information comes out, as more people wake up and become aware of what happened.
Mark, do you have any other information as to what other hospitals victims were taken to?
I do not have that information. Again, this is Los Robles Hospital. This is the nearest medical center to the shooting. We're just off the 101 freeway, 2.5 miles from the borderline bar and grill. I do not have any other information as to other hospitals, but reiterating for viewers who are just tuning in, this is the hospital where Sergeant Rod Helis was brought. He died at this hospital, a 29-year veteran, and as you reported, Leslie, set to retire within the next year, according to Sheriff Jeff Dean.
Okay. Mark, thank you. And, you know, we're still gathering so much information. And we talked to Mark about this as well, because it's going to be very difficult finding out the number of injuries.
Correct.
Because as you've heard throughout the night, witnesses describing how they got out of that building, what they did, running through the parking lot, some going back in and helping more people. But if you can imagine climbing through broken glass, there are going to be minor injuries, and people will go to hospitals where they're familiar with that environment. So there might be victims who even went home and self-treated themselves. So the number of people injured is going to be difficult to find out.
That's right. And it was a horrific and chaotic scene inside, as they described it, with hearing the gunshots and people running for cover, hiding in bathrooms, and then taking furniture and breaking out windows to try to help people out. One witness that we heard from helped about 30 people climb out of that place, and just This was a really popular nightclub, apparently, with lessons for people, with country music, dance lessons, and dancing as well. And so people really felt safe here, as they've been telling us.
Well, John Gregory is standing by. And John, based on what Leslie was just saying about Borderline, you talked with a young man named Matt, who was describing, he really one of the heroes there, and he was talking about not only does he go frequently, he'll be going back there. So clearly a popular place, hundreds of people there. I just can only imagine the impact to the community with such a focal point for young people to be so effective.
Yeah. Yeah, and big with the college crowd, especially on this night. It was a college-type event going on, so all the local colleges, the community colleges, and some of the other bigger schools, kids from all those schools here this evening, and it was very crowded. Yeah, we spoke with Matt. He said he was at the pool tables when he saw the suspect. He saw the suspect come in, heard the shots. He said he immediately knew what was going on, and he took action. He had people crowd behind the pool table for cover, and then he took a stool from the bar and smashed out a window and started hurting people through that window. A number of people we spoke with who say that Matt saved their lives. So he's a hero. And we also spoke with some young ladies who actually went up into the rafters. And let's just listen in to some of the things they had to say about what happened here. What did you see?
We saw smoke bombs being lit off. We heard gunshots, so we ducked. There was a smoke bomb right in front of us, and there were gunshots.
Did you see the person doing this?
Yes.
Yeah,
you did?
Yes.
What did you see?
It was this guy. He looked to be lighter skin. He was wearing all black, a trench coat. He looked to be about his 30s, 40s, and he like came into it and he like went like this and started just shooting like crazy. He threw a smoke bomb like 5 feet away from where we were. We saw the smoke bomb, and then he started going down the steps to go this way, and we were over here, so that's when me and Alyssa, we ran left to go outside of the building. Then we were hiding in our car for 45 minutes because we didn't know where she was, and we didn't want to leave without her. We heard more gunshots while we were sitting in our car. The cops told us to duck down. We were there for about 45 minutes, and then they told us to come out, and we went to the safe area.
How long did all this go on for?
It was probably, from the minute that he came in to the minute we left our car, it was probably about 45 minutes to an hour, and then we just sat out there in the whatever safe zone. I don't know why I keep calling it that, but we were there. It wasn't safe. But we were out there for probably 30, 40 minutes again, and now we're just getting released.
We heard different descriptions of the suspect. Some people said Middle Eastern with a beard. Some people said he had a bandana on. What did you see?
I saw him, but he had a lot of black on, so I wasn't able to fully see his complexion. But I would say he was lighter skinned or possibly darker skinned, but he wasn't super dark skinned. I don't remember there being a bandana, but I know he had short brown hair, and he did have facial hair. It didn't seem like a huge beard, but he did have facial hair.
Was he saying anything, yelling anything?
I did not personally hear anything, but I also could have shut it out.
And it appeared to be a handgun, you say?
Yes, it was a handgun.
How quickly were the shots being fired?
Very fast. There were about 20 shots just going off like crazy.
There was smoke everywhere. You couldn't see
What
where
is your
anything
name?
was coming from.
My name's Madison.
And last name?
Cummings.
C-U-M-M-I-N-G-S?
Yes.
Thank you,
was going to say something, John.
Yeah.
There was smoke everywhere. You couldn't see where anything was coming from. All you could hear was gunshots.
I mean, does anything go through your mind other than duck?
Duck, and I gotta get out.
Just run.
We ducked. Someone like grabbed my hand, pulled me down too. We looked around. I saw people running. I didn't even check the area. I got up and I ran out that door as fast as I could.
And they just released you now, you said?
Mm-hmm.
So you were sitting in a car, I guess?
We were sitting in a car for about 45 minutes. Everybody else was out. Me and Maddie were sitting there in the car. We didn't know what to do. There was police with guns everywhere, so we just stayed in our car. And we ducked, and we called our friends and family, let them know what happened, and we just stayed there. And eventually...
What was the first indication something was wrong?
Well, we've heard gunshots.
Yeah.
And the music kind of kept going, because we just heard like a few noises, so nobody really knew like what it was. And then more happened, and that's when the smoke bombs came and started happening, and that's when the music stopped and screaming started happening, and people just started running out.
Did you see the person shooting?
To be honest, I was so scared. I think I did, but I don't really remember. I just remember being scared and running out.
What is your name?
Alyssa Connaughton.
And spell both names, please.
ALYSSACONNAUGHTON.
Thank you so much.
And you were separated from your friends?
Yeah, so after lost track of them right away, I ran behind the bar area and hid behind a shelf, and then one guy was climbing up a ladder up into the attic, and he kind of motioned for me to follow him, so I thought that was the best option at the time, and we went up there with a couple others, shut the door, and just stayed quiet.
So could you hear what was going on?
Oh, yeah.
What did you hear?
Just gunshot after gunshot. I heard glass breaking. I heard just commotion and screaming. Yeah.
How long did it appear to go on for?
I mean, I'd say the first, like, the first shots that were just going one after another, probably about 10 minutes, it felt like, and then it stopped for a while and then kept going. It was kind of like this on and off.
Was he reloading, do you think?
I have no idea, but we kept thinking, you know, it's like, it would stop for a while and we were thinking, okay, we're okay, and then it'd just start up again.
Did you ever see the suspect?
Yeah, I was actually looking right at him when he...
Can you describe him?
I mean, I kind of just saw a silhouette. I didn't get a good look at him. Same thing that she said, he was wearing all black. That's really all I saw.
And was he saying anything, yelling anything?
Not that I heard. I think there was so much going on around us that all I could hear was the gunshots, honestly.
And you were in the rafters, I guess. How long were you up there?
Over an hour. We stayed there after we could hear that there were police in the building. We still, you know, weren't sure if it was safe to go down yet, so we stayed there until finally I think it was the SWAT that were there and let us know that it was safe to come down.
How did you get into the rafters? Did someone run and grab you?
There was a guy, he was climbing up and he just looked behind and motioned for me to come. He said, "You gotta come up here with me." So I just sprinted up that ladder as fast as I could.
What is your name?
Claire Gietzen.
Spell both, please.
CLAIREGIETZEN.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that's what we are listening to, these terrifying accounts from eyewitnesses who were inside. We're listening as they were hearing gunshots and trying to run up into the attic. We're going to listen right here to this witness.
And then he turned to the young cashier and he shot her. And then he kept on moving to the right, and he was going to go into an office, but I think all the people by the office door ran into the office and closed the door. I'm not absolutely sure about that.
How many shots did you hear?
At least 6 to 8 while I was inside still, and then I heard more as I was outside, and then I heard a pause, and he was reclipping, and then he just started firing randomly on the dance floor and anybody he could shoot. And by that time I was outside behind a brick wall, and then, you know, I had to go, I was running back in because my boy wasn't behind me. So I was running back in, and finally he came out and he met me outside, so I didn't have to go back in.
Did you see the sergeant?
I saw his car pull up. I didn't see him personally get out, but I saw as we were just running to the car, he was already there, which was quick. I mean, it was within 3 minutes, I would say, of the shooting started, 3 to 5 minutes, and he was there, and I didn't see him go in. I was just trying to get my boy to the car and telling the other young people just to go, run, and that was it. That was the last.
Did you ever think something like this could happen in a place like this?
No, never. I mean, I had a lot of friends that were in Vegas with that, because this is a country, you know, country music area, and you would never think that it would happen in such a safe area.
Did you ever get a look at the person shooting?
I did not. My son did. I did not. He was standing there, but I ducked for cover, and he described him, you know, as a guy with a beard, glasses, a black coat, long coat, and The guy didn't say anything whatsoever.
How did you get out?
I actually ran through the front door that he had just come in, because as soon as he took like 5 to 10 steps to the right, I said, let's run. Let's go, because he wasn't even paying attention to the left side of the bar. He just paid attention to the right. I don't know if he was targeting somebody, or it was just a random thing, but initially I thought he was targeting the office, the people in the office and the money. I thought it might have been some kind of robbery, but that wasn't it. He was just there to kill people.
What is your name, sir?
Tim.
Tim?
Dominguez.
Common spelling of Dominguez?
Yes, with a Z at the end. That matters.
Is your son okay?
I live in Moore Park with the sheriff.
Is your kid okay?
Yes, he is. He's good. He's good. Thank you for asking.
What did you say about sheriff?
The sheriff. Moore Park is the community.
Philip, Leslie, I don't know if we're on right now. I believe we are. No?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
and
John,
you're just listening to Tim Dominguez talk about Tim Dominguez there speaking about the situation in the bar. He was there here with his son, and as you heard, he managed to get out through the front door as the suspect moved into the bar and worked his way into a different area. Tim was able to get out, but his son was behind him, and of course you can imagine what was going through his mind as the shots were ringing out and he was outside and his son was inside. We're hearing so many stories like this, so many horrific stories of people either barely getting out or knowing people who are trapped in there while all this was going on. And of course, we're learning more of the horrific details of Sergeant Heelis' death. And it sounds like he was first on scene, went straight in when he heard the shots, and he was shot and killed near the entryway. He and the CHP officer first on the scene. So these stories are coming to light. We're still not learning much about the suspect. We're hoping to learn more about the suspect, described as a man wearing all black. Some people say he had a beard. Some people say he was wearing some type of bandana, perhaps. But just not a lot of information. The sheriff didn't want to share too much information because the investigation is at such an early stage as well. So a lot of questions here. When we first arrived on scene, we were told 11 wounded. And when you hear that, you're hoping, okay, maybe some of them are okay. But now we know, of course, 11 people killed, the suspect dead. We don't know if it was self-inflicted or if he died in a shootout with police. And of course, Sergeant Heelis also killed. So a total of 13 dead here. Just a terrible, terrible situation in what is normally one of the safest communities in the United States, keep in mind. But this sort of thing can happen anywhere. Everybody knows that now in this day and age. So it's going to take a while for folks here to come to grips with this. It's going to take a while for us to get more details about the suspect. And of course, we're going to be learning more about the people who lost their lives here as well. But that's the latest in Thousand Oaks. John Gregory, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. I'll send it back to you guys.
Okay, John, thank you. And we hear these witnesses talk about the circumstances that happened over just minutes. You heard Tim Dominguez talk about how quickly Sheriff Heelis got there. We heard people spending hours in the raft. It's so much is about time. It seems like it lasts forever. I can tell you that the biggest wait are people trying to find out where their loved ones are. The reunification area where Brandy hit is right now this morning is going to be a scene of great emotion this morning as people wait and try to find out if their loved ones are simply alive.
Right.
Brandy, what can you tell us?
Highly emotional here already, Philip. This is such an agonizing wait for family and friends who started to arrive here. We're at the Goebel Center in Thousand Oaks, and for anybody watching right now wondering where they need to go if they haven't heard from their friends or their loved ones in the aftermath of the shooting, this is the location that the Sheriff's Department wants you to come to. And we've seen some friends, family members walk through these doors. A chaplain is here, and we're told by deputies, please bring your ID if you're coming down, any identifying information of the person who is missing right now. And Philip and Leslie, throughout the chaos and the aftermath of this shooting, we do know of some of the people that friends have reported missing. Blake Dingman is 21 years old. His brother Aiden we've spoken to throughout the evening. He is worried. He has not heard from Blake yet. Victoria Rose Meek is a Cal Lutheran student who has told us that her brother was missing earlier this evening. She's concerned about him. Lena Housley from Pepperdine. She was with 7 ladies from a residence hall. They somehow got separated in the chaos. And then we've also been told about a gentleman named Jake Dunham. Those are just a few of the people so far that we've heard from family members who are concerned. We've seen, obviously, Some people show up, long faces, running in, worried. It's unknown. Obviously, they're trying to get as much information from deputies as possible, hoping that their sons, their daughters, their friends are okay. And I can tell you, walking up to this scene about 30 minutes ago, the deputies here, they're heartbroken because they also lost their sergeant earlier, Sergeant Ron Helis, who was killed in this shooting. This is highly emotional for them too. They're still having to work through this. They're trying to help these families, but they're also, again, as you see more family members show up, dealing with heartache of their own. So we'll keep you updated here as we try to get you more information about the victims from their loved ones as they show up and find out any more information. But obviously, this is going to be a really difficult morning here at this location as well. We'll send it back to you in the studio.
Brandy, are they giving you any kind of time frame as far as how long they'll be there, or what people should do?
No. No, they're just asking everyone, if you have questions and you have a loved one who's missing, come here, obviously with your ID. They have a chaplain here waiting to talk to you as they try to process the information on these victims. The crime scene, obviously, still, surrounded by officers, the FBI there. It could be quite a while until we officially get the names. And as you've been hearing, Philip and Leslie, from all of the unbelievable, heroic rescues, there are so many people who are injured in the hospital as well, who were cut just climbing out of broken windows, that were hiding in attics, and they took themselves to the hospital after the fact. It's just, there's been so much chaos. I can't describe to you just the idea of trying to get around this location with roads shut down, armed agents from the federal government, and this is just trying to be a staging point. It's just now starting from this end. There's not quite that many people here just yet. These are the early stages. This place is going to be a lot more full as the morning progresses. You can tell this is just now beginning to be the location where family and friends are going to start to gather. I mean, it is 3 in the morning, but the concern and the agony and the waiting, as a parent, it's hard.
Okay, Brandy, thank you very much for that. Certainly a tough day ahead for everyone involved in this as we wait and learn more details. But again, the sheriff was saying that as far as the suspect goes, there is no ID and no motive so far.
It's the waiting. It's the waiting, and when you see the reunifications, when people are able to find out their loved ones are safe, that becomes incredibly emotional. Then, as you can imagine, at Brandy's location, when people find out and people are identified and we learn what's happened and who more of these. You saw the reaction of Sheriff Jeff Dean when he was talking about Sheriff Helis, the deputy sheriff who was killed in the line of duty, who charged into that building. And again, we talked about all of these things that have happened. So many people able to come out and tell their story today.
And we're going to hear from one of the people who was described as a hero because he was inside during the shooting and took a bar stool, knocked out a window, and helped about 30 people to safety.
Basically heard the shots. It was a tall, probably 6'2", 6'3", dark figure, all black with his hood on, and he basically was unloading, and all I did was grab as many people as I could and pull them underneath the table, and then till I heard the shots, till I heard a break in the shots, and then we got people out of there as much as we could.
It sounds like you smashed a window out.
Yeah, we did.
Describe that.
Bar stools go through windows. It works.
I mean, I interviewed somebody who went through that window. You helped get them out, so you pulled a lot of people out, it sounds like.
That's all we could do. The only thing that I could have wished for is to have something better than a bar stool.
What did this guy look like?
Tall, built, bigger figure, maybe wearing a vest or something, possibly. All dark, blacked out.
And what was he armed with, could you see?
A smaller caliber handgun with a light or a laser attachment on the bottom end. That's all I could see.
Any idea how many shots were fired?
Probably 10 to 15 in the first round, and then after that we got out the window, and it wasn't until we were probably halfway down the parking lot till we heard shots again, and then another break, and then lots of shots, and I think at that point it was police and him back and forth.
And how long did that ordeal go on for?
By the time we got people down to the street, that was probably a minute and a half, 2 minutes maybe. And then we ran back in, and we were just pulling stragglers who were still in the parking lot, calling people, and we were like, you need to get out of here right now.
How many people did you get through that window?
We probably pushed 30 or 35 people through that window.
Wow. And was this person shooting at you guys while you were doing this?
He was not shooting at us, not that I know of. No one around me was going down. He was focused more on that front area until he got done with that.
It sounds like you knew pretty quickly what was going on.
As soon as I looked up and as soon as I heard the shots, I knew exactly what was going on. And that was my
there's confusion, it's crowded, there's music, but you figured it out pretty quickly. Why?
Instinct, I guess. That's all that I could do. But it was just, I'm here to protect my friends, my family, my fellow humans, and I know where I'm going if I die, so I was not worried to sacrifice. So all I wanted to do was get as many people out of there as possible.
An incredible interview and an extraordinary young man to have the presence of mind in that situation, to be able to help people out, and look how calm he is.
Remarkably humble.
Yeah.
And just knew.
And saved people's lives.
What to do.
Saved people's lives.
And he kept going back.
Yeah,
even in the midst of all the chaos. We talk about Ron Helis, who died a hero going in to save lives. But people survived too, but not just worried about themselves.
Right.
So many people went back in there.
Right. There's several other people who did the same thing that he did. And we are going to sort of reset this for you and give you all the basic information, the latest information on this shooting at the Border Grill and Bar in Thousand Oaks. We do know that 13 people are dead. That includes the gunman who died inside of the nightclub. It's not clear if the gunman shot himself or not. They're still trying to work that out and figure that out. But it also includes the Ventura County Sheriff Sergeant, who was also killed in the shooting. Ron Helis, he had been with the department for some 29 years and was planning to retire in the next year. He leaves behind a wife and a son, I believe. And of course, you know, the sheriff's department and the deputies completely broken up about his death. He was one of the first to arrive on scene, walked in and was shot there. And at least 10 to 15 people also have been injured in this. Perhaps one of those people has gunshot wounds, but the rest were moderate to minor injuries, and they were taken to the hospital by friends.
This all began at about 11:20 last night, so many of you are just waking up to this news. So at 11:20 last night, witnesses say someone walked into the Borderline Bar and Grill and just began opening fire. The first victim, according to witnesses, was the security guard at the door. The cashier was targeted next. And as you can imagine, it was chaos for hours as people either hid in the rafters, ran out into the parking lot, and hid in their cars. But as Leslie mentioned, there were 11 patrons dead. Then Ron Helis was killed responding. And Sheriff Jeff Dean described going in there. He said he didn't want to get too close to disturb the scene, but I'm quoting here, he called it a horrific scene in there. There's blood everywhere. So that too is going to be a long playing element of this, because they've got to investigate at this point. So now there are people in there, and they will be in there as the investigation goes on.
And because of what we've heard from the witnesses this morning, so many witnesses, we're getting a clearer picture of what exactly happened in there. Of course, the eyewitnesses are telling bits and pieces of who they saw. They're describing the suspect as a large person wearing all black, perhaps a hoodie, perhaps a baseball cap, but some facial hair there, and setting off those smoke bombs and opening fire and reloading several times. Of course, the music was going. You can imagine what it was like inside that nightclub. Music is going, and then suddenly they hear gunshots. And so everyone's just trying to sort of figure out what's going on, and immediately just preservation of life, trying to escape and to survive and to help others.
You talked about the people and the witness statements. We've heard from a lot. There were hundreds of people in there. Let's listen in to a few of the people who were talked to after this scene was over.
I come here a lot, I dance a lot, and I was just dancing, you know, having a good night, normal Wednesday. And my low as that route, so I know what gunshots sound like, and heard it go off and instantly knew. I just laid down on as many girls as I could, trying to protect as many people as I could. And then shooting kept going. They were throwing smoke bombs, and then it kind of like hit me like, okay, it's time to go to work. And then I just windows broke, and I just hopped out the window, and I was one of the last people out. I didn't see anybody. I didn't see any guns, and then I just ran as far as I could, as fast as I could, and then gloved up. I'm certified EMT and stuff like that, so I came right back to go to work. So,
did you treat anybody? I mean, how many victims?
I don't know. I mean, I've seen one guy shot. That's all I know. I saw one kid shot. That was it. A couple cut wounds from glass, but that's all I've seen so far. So we're kind of just on standby, waiting to go into work.
So I've heard from several of them that they have gotten out. I've heard from several friends that we know one friend that's in the hospital right now. It was college night at Borderline. They do it every Wednesday. So California Lutheran University is right down the road, which I'm student body president. He's also in our student government. So it's just kind of making sure everyone's okay and seeing what we can do to help out.
Yeah, we're out here waiting for them and, open to them and taking them back to campus. And so it's just kind of a matter of making sure everyone's safe and everything's good.
Is this a bar you've been to a lot before?
I haven't been personally. I know it's a pretty popular bar with line dancing and Cal Lutheran students especially on Wednesdays. It's student night. So, obviously a lot of people were in there at this time. So it's important that we figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
So you heard those students there from Cal Lutheran had gone there to find out because they'd heard about it. They wanted to see if they could do any help. We're just getting word here. Pepperdine University has actually made a statement here saying several of its students were at Borderline Bar and Grill in Thousand Oaks when all of this happened. School officials right now are trying to identify and provide support to any of the students, according to this statement from Pepperdine. Unclear if any of those killed or wounded were students at the school. So we want to make sure that parents understand that's not what Pepperdine is saying. They are just confirming that there were students there. So we're trying to give you as much information. We don't want to unnecessarily worry parents because the worry is already so real. We actually, about an hour ago, watched a young man on the phone. It was an odd coincidence that he received a call he thought, about his brother. And we could only hear the silence.
Right.
And it was horrific, waiting and wondering what was going to happen at the end of that phone call. Come to find out it was no information, and that's what people are dealing with.
Right.
They're getting information, then they're getting nothing.
And he had a friend whose father was in the fire department and told him that the fact that he had heard no information was not necessarily bad.
Right.
It could have been a good thing because these people are, dropping their cell phones, running, going to the hospital. They may not, be able to call and immediately let you know what's going on. But
well, there was one, along those lines, there was one, many of the students have talked about this, and and you see some students with an X on their hand. Those are people under 21. The situation is you're not allowed to drink if you have the X on your hand. So some of these kids are 18, 19, 20 years old. Of course, some are, you'll notice many young people
they were
in there. But what you were talking about, the cell phone, people dropped them. We heard one witness say they didn't want this. His father had told him, don't have the cell phone on because that's light, that the suspect could be, or the shooter could be drawn to. So to your point, many people just threw it down and took off.
Yeah, and this was a college country night, which happens, as the witness said, every Wednesday. So you had a lot of these young people in there. And as John Gregory said, this is Thousand Oaks. It is known to be one of the safest neighborhoods. And these kids were just out having a good time, as many of them were regulars coming to this place and feeling as though they were safe there. And this happens. The Ventura County Sheriff's Department received multiple 911 calls, and this was at 11:20 p.m. last night. Those calls were of shots fired, and along with California Highway Patrol officers and the Ventura County Sheriff's deputies, they were there some 3-4 minutes later.
Just had a moment. Got word that a friend of mine at Pepperdine is safe.
Oh,
I can only imagine what families are going through. I'm so sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
But you know that when you hear they're safe,
Oh, you're talking
it's
about
just as
your
emotional.
goddaughter.
Yes.
Oh, so she is safe. That's good. That's good. So,
It's a surprise, and I apologize for
okay.
that.
That's okay. It's
But when you've been friends, when you have family, this is very real.
Right.
And I can only imagine, we've talked about this, what Brandy Hitt is dealing with. She is at the Reunification Center right now, and it is gut-wrenching. Brandy?
Yeah. Yeah, Philip, hey, you know what? You don't have to apologize. There are so many people going through this right now, and we are witnessing a lot of it firsthand here, too. You can't help but get choked up because it's such an agonizing wait for so many families right now. I'm so glad to hear that your goddaughter is okay. That is wonderful news. We're here, and if anybody is interested in coming to the Reunification Center, you want to get information about your loved ones, we are at the Goebel Center, and this is on Jans, and this is likely going to be a very emotional place for the next several hours as family and friends wait to find out if their loved ones are okay. I want to show you, this is the inside. You can see more people showing up by the minute. They have a chaplain here. They have several actually that are giving these families counseling. And you're being told to just bring your ID, any information you have about your loved one or friend who is missing. They're going to try to help track them down. Hopefully they're okay. Maybe they have suffered minor injuries. But what we've also seen, and you understand why so many people might not want to talk on camera at this moment, are young people showing up, Philip and Leslie, wondering if their friends are okay. I mean, you're talking about teenagers here, people in their early 20s, because this was college night. And I spoke to a couple of gentlemen earlier, and I want to put this out there. They are really concerned about a young lady named Bella Gainsborough. She is 18, and they say that she was going tonight, and they have not heard from her since. And they have been calling her phone, and nobody has answered. Also, a gentleman named Joshua Talkington, they are looking for right now. He is a bouncer who works there. And as we heard in the Sheriff's Department's news conference earlier this morning, the bouncer at the door was killed tonight. They don't know if he was working tonight, but he also has not been answering his phone. So we're trying to get more names of individuals. Obviously, it's going to be a long, agonizing morning here, and one for the Sheriff's Department as well, because they lost one of their comrades in Sergeant Helis as well.
Okay. Hope that people hope they are okay, possibly in the hospital or went home. So we will watch out for that. In the meantime, let's go to John Gregory. He has been live on the scene there all morning long. John, what can you tell us?
Well, Leslie, we're learning more about the initial incident when the suspect entered the bar and grill. I want to talk to Holden Harrer real quick. Holden, you saw the initial incident where he walks in and starts shooting. Describe it for us.
So where I was sitting, I was on like the side area of where you could have access to go on stage, so like where the side exit was. And where I was looking at the time was at the front door. And I saw the suspect walk in and basically pull out his gun and let off the first couple shots at the girl that was working the front desk. And immediately I was in shock. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is really happening right now. And I immediately just went down to the floor just to get cover, make sure I was safe, and just the people that I was with. And I started crawling on the floor until I was able to have access to run out the door. And then when I started running out the door, I heard more gunshots like behind me, so I didn't know if they were coming toward me or not. So I just took off in a full sprint.
You went out the front door that he came in?
So no, I was at the side area. So I went out the side exit, and just thank God I was not at that front door.
Describe this suspect. What does this guy look like?
So suspects, from like a quick glance of what I saw, it looked like he had a black hat, black glasses, he had a beard. I don't know if he was wearing like it was a black shirt, but I don't know if it was like a jacket or not. But yeah, he didn't even like say anything too. So it all just happened so quick. And
describe the scene. I imagine total chaos.
Oh, insane. Like people like out here. Thousand Oaks, just Ventura County area. We just like to say it's like our safe haven, you know what I mean? Like not a lot of stuff like this happens, and we never expect it to happen out here. Like you could literally walk down the street right now at 2 in the morning, wouldn't have any worries about someone stealing from you or getting shot. And
somebody was saying the suspect was all in black, armed with a pistol?
Yeah, it was like a handgun, so it was nothing too big, but it was a handgun. And yeah, this just all happened so quick, and just very, very shocked that I saw this with my own 2 eyes, and I'm lucky to stand here on my 2 feet today.
And you got out and you were helping other people get clear, it sounds like.
Yeah, so when I did get out and I finally got to my car, I started like hyperventilating. Like honestly, like my hands started like curling in. I was just freaking out, and then I was in my car for a couple seconds. I'm like, all right, like we gotta start going here. And then when I started going down this road right here, there's a 76 like gas station over here, and I saw people like in the street and told them to get in my car. I just didn't want anyone on the road, just making sure everyone was safe. And one of the girls that ended up being in my car had like a broken arm, and I drove her to Los Robles Hospital, dropped them all off there, made sure everyone was okay. Like I didn't even know them, and I was just like, I love you guys. Like I'm glad that everyone's okay. But
could you see anybody, any victims in the bar from what you could see?
So yeah, the first couple gunshots that went off, like I knew who that girl was that worked. Like I didn't know her just on like us hanging out all the time. Like it was just someone I met just from going to Borderline. And I've been coming here for 6 months, always running into people that I haven't seen in years. And this girl was just someone I would always talk to because it's the first person you're seeing when you're walking into Borderline. And yeah, she was the first person to get shot that I saw, and it just blows me away.
Well, Holden, I'm glad you're okay. Thank you for talking to us. We certainly do appreciate it. But another person with some insight into how all this unfolded, and it just seems like this suspect walked in and just started shooting. No words were exchanged. It doesn't sound like he made any comments at all. He just pulled out a gun and opened fire, and that's what we've heard from several people now. So many questions about motive, who this person is. And again, police still piecing all of that together here at the crime scene. They're going to be making us move in a few minutes here as they try and consolidate this crime scene and get a better handle. The number of media out here is really incredible. These shootings, sadly, everybody is on scene to cover them, and it can be a little chaotic. So the Sheriff's Department is trying to get things a little more organized out here as they continue this investigation. Just to recap, 11 people inside the bar killed, the suspect dead, and of course the Sheriff's Sergeant also killed as he was entering the club to try and stop this shooting. So a total of 13 dead here, and still a lot of questions about who this person is and why he would do something like this. We're live in Thousand Oaks. John Gregory, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. Back to you.
John, before you have to leave, just a quick question regarding some of the people you've talked to. We're here now. This happened at 11:20 last night, and people are still, like the person you just talked to, still there, still hanging around. Do you feel like some of these folks need to talk about this, need to get out? Are they finding comfort in the community there?
Yeah, there's always a debate over whether people should talk to the media. You know, a lot of people don't like us, but I do think, and I've been covering these things for, 25 years, and I think a lot of people need to talk, and I think it helps some people, and you kind of get that sense after you talk to people, they almost feel a little relieved, and I think that's what's going on here. And for some people, I think it's part of the healing process, and it makes sense to me, for them to sort it out in their mind, to talk to somebody about it. It ends up being somebody like us, but we try and be as polite as we can and ask them quietly if they feel like talking. And in this case, Holden was more than willing to, and we certainly do appreciate it. But that's the latest here. Back to you, Philip.
Okay. All right, John, thank you very much. And such a heartbreaking interview from that young man that we heard. And they are going through so much emotionally, physically. The adrenaline is going. He was talking about how he escaped the situation, but then all of a sudden started hyperventilating, such a visceral response to having to dodge bullets inside of a nightclub. And then he was able to get away. And then they experienced survivor's guilt. I mean, such a rush of things and feelings that they are having to deal with, and it is good to talk about it, and hopefully they can get some help later on to deal with all of this and move forward.
It's 4 o'clock right now. This is Eyewitness News at 4 a.m. We've been on the air with Mark Brown, Michelle Tuzzi from 11 o'clock last night through the night. You saw John Gregory, Jory Rand was out there. We've been at the scene throughout the night. But if you're just now waking up and you're just starting with us, we want to kind of reset what has happened and let you know what happened last night, as you very likely were asleep. At 11:20 last night, this is not overly late. This is not overnight shooting. This was at 11:20 last night. A bar, Borderline bar, filled with young people, college students at Cal Lutheran and Pepperdine, over 100 people there. It was country night. and someone walked through the front door and opened fire. Within minutes, 911 calls were made, almost instantaneously, because we're told within about 2 to 3 minutes, the first officers arrived. 2 officers, a CHP officer and a Ventura County Sheriff's deputy also arrived. That was Ron Helis. We're told that 11:26, the officers entered into the Borderline Bar and Grill, and they exchanged gunfire with the suspect. That gunfire is what killed Ron Helis. He was taken to Los Robles Hospital. He did not die at the scene. But inside the Borderline Bar and Grill, there were 11 people who were killed. Ron Helis is the 12th that died elsewhere. Eventually, Jeff Dean, the sheriff of Ventura County, said he's not counting the suspect in this as one of the dead as far as his count of victims. But the suspect makes a 13th person who was killed in this shooting.
That's right. And when they walked in, the suspect, the sheriff tells us that the suspect was dead. So it could be from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, but they are not confirming that at this point. But we have heard all morning long from witnesses sort of rounding out the picture of what it was like inside this horrific scene of hearing the gunshots and coming to the realization of that someone was inside just opening fire on everyone, and people just scattered. Some people were trampled. Some people went up into the attic to escape and doing whatever they could to escape, taking furniture, bar stools, and breaking out windows, and others helping people get outside. And so many people were shot in that, and 11 of them
Never be always give your best. Ready? Your best. Never get. Always. Never. Petty.